Hello, friends are back again. It's Fightful Overbooked. I am at Joel Pearl, and it's Joel and Kate at 8-ish. We're back.
It is as early as StreamYard would allow today. But hi, Joel.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
I mean, what are we, heroes? 3 weeks in a row?
I don't know what happened. The stars have aligned, and suddenly we are doing everything right.
Here's the thing. Hot girl summer has wound down. And so you are no longer gallivanting around town like a floozy. Okay. I was always here extremely consistently. It was really you that was the problem. I would say all summer, but I'm glad now that the suspension is lifted that we're back in a rhythm.
You almost got through it.
I did. I was gonna go with a classic Joel Pearl, summarily and unprofessionally walked out for a lot of weeks of the summer, but couldn't quite stick the landing. But it's fun. We always like doing the show. I'm glad that we're back in a rhythm now.
Yeah, it's
back
weird.
into no days off zone.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
We should probably not make that a thing that we do.
But here we are.
Here we are. And
that's
here
the
you are.
wrestling cycle, bruv.
Hi, chat. How you doing? It's good to see the chat show up as they always do. Hey, leave a thumbs up if you haven't already here on the channel, and subscribe to us if you haven't. Tell your friends.
Hey.
Tell your friends about the 3-worded thumbnail that got the dorks angry. I don't like your clickbait. Why don't you just look at the actual title of the video? Maybe read a little bit of the description. Maybe engage in the conversation we're about to have. It might shock you.
And if you really knew about clickbait in this show, you would realize that CM Punk should have been on the thumbnail for this.
So close to putting him on, just being like, no devil, no CM Punk.
Yeah, is CM Punk Satan?
Yes.
So many questions.
I just booked a singular night at one of the hotels in Vegas I'll be staying at for Hard to Kill weekend.
At one of the hotels?
So I play... Chat, back me up. There's this game.
Chat, by the way, killing it. We're already getting Techvember, Thanksgiving. Everybody's saying, bruv, this is the year of the Brits. I am here for it. You guys are crushing it. Anyway, continue.
Amazing. Yeah, me upsetting people is kind of on the regular now, especially in AEW land. It's weird. I have friends who work there, man. Don't give me that shit. Anyway, yeah, so there are multiple stories here. So first of all, I play this My Vegas slots game when I'm bored, and like you just got to pick the right games, and it gives you like, oh my god, are you doing it too? Champ.
Oh my gosh.
That's champ right there.
Wait, go really close with it, because is CM Punk showing up on the stream?
No.
Pepsi Phil.
No. Anyway, so I play this game and it gives me a whole bunch of like points, and the points are redeemable for things like comp nights in hotels. I know where I'm staying for the first couple of nights, but then it's the afterwards that I'm like, where do I want to stay? And I realize like I can use my points and get a comp night, pay the stupid like $30 resort fee, and stay somewhere not as close to the venue. So that's what I did. I booked one night just now at one place, and then I'll stay somewhere else for the other nights that I'm there.
Joel, if you are trying to tell us that you have a gambling addiction here on the show, we're here for you. Okay, we will help you through it. I don't know what this Vegas points game is, but it sounds a lot like those points might be the slots. Okay, and you're a partner and a father. I feel like you have to, be aware of those responsibilities. But no, that rules. You got some freebie-ishness. I'll take it, right? Why not?
And I did this before out of necessity, because when I went to SummerSlam in Vegas back in 2021, my flight got canceled as I was sitting on the tarmac. And they were trying to put us up. And again, if you know Vegas, there's a travel lodge on the strip. It's a motel and it's real gross. They were trying to put us there for the night for free. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I have all of these points for the Park MGM, and that's where the talent had been staying. That's not me saying I stay with the talent. That's me saying I knew the hotel was good.
Joel is so in on where the talent is.
No, actually, our friend Issa, Demon Diva, she knew where the talent was because she was staying at the same hotel that weekend. Anyway,
Send me that game. Let's get weird. I'm going to Vegas for Impact if I can win myself a free trip there.
Oh, if you can do it. It's mostly like the weekend stuff. That's the biggest pain. If you come to Vegas, we can bunk. Like I can get a room that's good for both of us.
I am on some restrained levels of fun employment, Joel. Okay, I'm not trying to go to Vegas, but I am trying to go to Toronto, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, I got curtains now back here, so you won't get bugged in the morning. So there's that.
I do. So I have points that I can redeem. I've been told at your apartment that, or your not even apartment, your complex, your beautiful place. That I'll tell you what was a more luxurious stays than a lot of hotels that I've stayed at before. I only regret that I didn't get to hang out a little bit longer and spend more time with the cutest members of your family. No offense to you, but
no, believe me. I'm well aware of how much cuter my wife is than everyone else.
We can run to the Toronto Library and record for no reason.
That would be great.
We'll go to Impact. We'll go to the library, even though we could just record at your place. And where are they running? Actually, I don't even know. Where does
Mississauga? They're running at the Don Koloff Arena. This is Final Resolution in December, and plan is to be there. Don Koloff is about 25 minutes from my place if you're driving, and it's in a way it's better than Rebel, which is where they normally would run. In that Rebel is like in the worst part of town right now due to construction and like just everything is in the middle of nowhere. At least this place in Mississauga is it's fine. Like the area is established. It's not under construction all the time. It's Santino's gym. Like it's Santino's building. It's a Battle Arts Academy.
The chat pointing out that all I have to do is redeem one toothbrush.
Yes,
that is my stay. So
that is the resort fee. Is the toothbrush?
Is this a resort fee? I'm hoping to make it there. If my passport makes it here in time, I'm there.
We'll make it happen.
Yeah, I think we can. I think that'll be good because I would love to do that. Love to see you again.
Hey, by the way, while you're doing the thumbs up things, chat, you can also donate a super chat, support us here on the channel, and any amount of question statement read on the air. So
did we do the thing? Did you do the intro, or did I just start talking at you?
Yes. No, we kind of did an intro, and then we just kind of did what we always do.
But were you like, "Hello, friends, we're back again"?
Yeah, I did it. It was a little lackluster, to be honest. I could have, jizzed it up a bit.
Should we try it again? It feels weird.
I can only do that like once a month with this thing because I did it with Jeremy on an ITW episode and it was really funny. The bit worked. Here, it just feels like we're forcing it.
All right.
It's okay. So
sounds like you care less about this than that show.
Oh, this particular channel doesn't get a wrestler interview. Someone pointed out.
We don't get Joey Janela over here, so I'm just gonna phone it in.
I'm just waiting to hear like, oh, Wrestler X listens to you guys, and I'm gonna be like, the hell they do. This is the worst show you could possibly watch if you're a wrestler.
Should we get to the heart of it? Is AEW dead now?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone's buried and everyone sucks, and that's just the way it goes. I'm sorry. There'll be more questions at this time.
The biggest thing is wrestling is dead, is what I learned in the past 24 hours.
Yep.
Shame for Will Ospreay, who just signed to AEW, that now the entire industry is dead because of the main event last night. So.
Listen, Will Ospreay, if you're watching, bro, I have something to tell you, bro.
Bruv.
If you do not work hard to kill, bruv, we are going to have problems, bruv.
My God.
Okay?
This bruv on Scott D'Amore's payroll. Just like the other Chevs, which is a thing that I know fully what it means.
I tell you, someone said Ryback's favorite podcast. You know what? That could be true, and I'd feel really bad for Ryback. And what?
Me. Oh.
So Full Gear. Okay. We're going to talk about the show in a second.
Are we going to start with Full Gear?
We don't have to. I was going to tell the story of why Full Gear was a little bit more difficult for me to watch because I was in the hospital on Friday night, Kate.
Whoa!
Not me, which makes it even worse. My kid. So this was like the freakiest thing. We've been very lucky. I've told the stories before about like my kid puked on me for the first time. It took him 19 months to get there. Okay, that was the first time it happened. Other people were like, wow, that's a long time. And I'm like, yeah, no, we've been lucky. Kid has a great immune system, still does. He develops cough, daycare cough as it is. One night, Friday night, we wake up. It's like 1:30 in the morning, and he's coughing fits. I hear them. My wife has asthma. She had it as a kid, just the way it is. But then I started hearing him kind of wheezing a bit, and then we both started waking up, freaking out. Went and grabbed him. We ended up calling paramedics. They came. They, we were rightfully freaking out. He was fine. He was in that, like, wasn't reacting. He wasn't crying. He wasn't freaking out. We were more freaked out than he was. He just sat there. We don't have TVs in our place other than like the one that's in this office that's always off. So kid doesn't do much for screen time. Anyway, so we start watching Elmo on the phone with him, and he's just having a blast. Paramedics show up. They check him out. They're like, hey, he's got croup, which is like a bad cough type of thing where it affects the upper airways and all that stuff. We're like, we're going to give him a nebulizer, which is kind of over the face thing that you can give to babies. So they put him on him, and he's like, and they're like trying to eat it all up and drink. It was very cute because he clearly just wanted to get better. It was a moment. We're just like laughing. We got in the ambulance. We went to the hospital. Thank God the hospital visit was not long, because if you know Canada, you can be in the hospital for a long time in waiting rooms, especially on a Friday night. So we got there around 3 a.m. We left by about just after 5 a.m. And the only reason we had to wait was because every time we saw a doctor, which were like 5-minute consultations, the doctor would be like, well, they gave you this steroid, so we have to monitor you for another hour. And then we're going to give you something else. And then we're going to monitor you after that for another hour. So it was one of those like, hurry up and wait. Long story short, we got home at 6 a.m. The kid has been a trooper. He's great. He's okay. He's going back to school tomorrow. Everything's cool. But like, we were running on fumes for Full Gear. So I'm just giving you, that's my overall made it Full Gear. But man, was I done when we got to midnight. No presser for me. I read the notes.
Well, I mean, more important, like wrestling's the most important thing in the world, and then like huge gap, and then your kid, obviously, right? So
yeah.
I'm sincerely so glad little buddy's okay. That's so scary.
It was a moment. I couldn't believe it. We had a couple super chats already. CEO saying, nice, we're already setting up Joel Gacy versus Will Ospreay. Listen, bro, I will beat his ass.
Ospreay next.
I will. You know what? And we'll do it on top of the PC.
That's what's up.
That's right.
I respect it.
Tony Baloney giving us a super chat saying, I'm about to send a super chat about wrestling, and Joel comes on. Joel, sorry, we're doing the Spanish. Comes in talking about his kid in the hospitals. Here's money for the crew. Thanks to the guilt trip. And I don't do this to guilt trip. Listen, we're very lucky.
Oh, yes, he does. Don't listen to him.
No, we're in. I'll be up
stealing son of a bitch.
I know, right? Canada, we're very lucky. It's all covered through our healthcare system, so that's good. Yeah, we appreciate it. Like pink eye medication was a different story. It was like it's $20. It's okay. But my point,
I was about to like,
it's not.
I was just gonna get into how bad this MJF and Jay White stuff was. I was stretching over here. I was shaking off the rust from last night, and you're like, my kid went to the hospital. I was like, well, hold on.
Well, we're good now. I mean, everyone's good, so now we can absolutely spend as much time as we need to talking about the wrestling.
Well, what do you want to? This is the beauty of the show for me is I do no work and you do everything. So should we make the people wait for a lackluster main event and let them down as well? Or should we dive right into it?
I've been trying to find the words to say this happily when it comes to Max. People know how I feel about MJF's Jewish identity and how he puts it out there and how he feels about his story vis-a-vis his upbringing. And like, I gave it a lot of rope and I continue to give it a lot of rope. But remember when everyone was coming after him for the quarters thing and he's like, no, I promise it's going to pay off and everyone's going to be happy and it's going to be great. Well, I could probably tell you now about a month later that no, it did not. In my eyes, as a Jewish man, I didn't feel like that did anything other than just annoy the fuck out of me, just accomplish nothing. And then we went into the event last night and we're going to talk about that as well. And yeah, I think a lot of people share a lot of similar feelings when it comes to the way that it played out. Bell to bell, the match itself, the wrestling itself, like there was a lot of really good stuff.
Never in doubt for that.
Exactly. That's the thing about wrestling, especially on like those high levels of WWE show and an AEW show, an Impact show, whatever. If they're on pay-per-view, these wrestlers are doing the wrestling. Okay. It's the stories that we're having some trouble with. It's the stories that we got to work on a little bit, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to what worked and what didn't, because it was a mishmash, especially last night.
It was just so far out of its own way as far as the main event goes. I also there were some things that I didn't like booking wise, but it was more like a matter of taste, or like me wondering where things are going to go and not liking it in the moment. And then there were things like the main event, which I felt like from a wrestling criticism perspective were off base. And I always try to draw a line between those two, because there are plenty of things in this world that make wrestling sense that are not for me. And I don't like them just because I don't like them, in the same way that there are some really great songs in the world that I just don't like that song very much. But it's a great song if you look at it fundamentally. And then there are things that don't make sense from a wrestling perspective. And last night was a whole bunch of both. And so the quarters thing, it feels like MJF wanted to maybe pay that off, and AEW was like, we're dropping it immediately, because I feel like that got turned into something else extremely quickly. Like, that felt like everything they were going to do quarters wise went Diamond Ring wise very, very fast, which was probably the right decision for them in that moment. From a very overarching spiritual, not Jewish woman, that's what it looked like to me. And as far as this story goes, as someone that likes ROH too, to see like Super Max it felt a lot like Super Cena to me. And I said that last night. It was very frustrating to have gone so far out of your way and to have so many opportunities along the way to bail yourself out of the weird that creative that you set up all night into a main event that I just don't think it did more for Max than it did in making Jay White look really weak. Like, everybody was already cheering for Max. Like, he's already the most over babyface on the roster, because 2023 is a weird wrestling year. And it did a lot in my eyes to damage Jay White. A lot of really, really weird calls. And I kept being like, well, the payoff is we're going to find out who the Devils are, right? Like, they're going to come and level the playing field. Adam Cole is maybe orchestrating this whole thing with them, with that extremely dramatic Max going into the ambulance moment of like, Adam, don't let them take my belt away. I was like, oh, Adam's going to be cerebral and mobilize the Devils, right? Ronda Rousey is not signed to ROH, FightfulSelect.com. Sorry, bugged me in the chat.
Tony Khan also confirmed that last night in the presser. Said flat out she's not signed. She made an appearance. She made an appearance after she did the match at Pro Wrestling Revolver. They're doing a follow-up tag because someone said, oh, let's put it on TV instead.
Yeah, and that I think is actually kind of cool. Yep. But so, do you want to talk about the main event first, or do you want to go through the card? Because this story carried on throughout the entire night. So you're steering the ship.
Yeah, let's go through pieces of the card. I will say this. I know people in the chat have mentioned, they dropped the quarters thing with MJF. Yes, they did. And I applauded them for that. But Max also still made the statement with or without the quarters. It was him saying this is going to play out as like overcoming the oppressor, overcoming the bully, and everyone's going to be happy. And I just thought to myself, well, no, that's not how this is going to work. And it's not how it's going to look, because now you've put the kibosh on the thing that we had the biggest trouble with. Now it's just a story of this jerk ass Juice Robinson, getting beat by Max for a Dynamite Diamond Ring that you've already had 5 times in a row. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the story that I didn't really enjoy as it evolved from something that a lot of us in the Jewish world kind of took offense to.
Sure. And Juice wasn't even there last night. So maybe that still is getting paid off down the line in a way. Like, I don't know if he's going to beat Juice up separate, because he was not involved last night.
Right.
So
anyway.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we started, right? We had a pretty strong 0 hour. I thought I really liked Claudio and Bud Matt. And I, of course, am Eddie Kingston's stan of the universe.
So you do ROH stuff. You cover ROH for the site. You and Reg do a post show. Were you under the impression that was going to be the final battle main event? Eddie versus not Jeff Jarrett yet. Eddie versus Jay Lethal?
No, because they've done a good job in ROH so far of setting up potential other people. Like Dalton Castle has a match with him this week. Ethan Page has been talking about it a lot. They have been doing a better job of building up contenders. This now being entered into the C2 R2D2 G1, as I've been calling it, whatever this continental thing is, and the titles are just unified with New Japan Strong. I have no idea what the heck that is. I don't even know if I don't like it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm just, it was very out of nowhere and kind of thrown into it, and also kind of because it's a round robin tournament, that gets really weird. Like, is that title just gonna get passed around like a hot potato throughout this tournament? I would like that because I feel like people should lose in round robin tournaments. That's what I like about the G1. So, and the other piece of that is I felt like you had opportunities for the C2G1 to set up Danielson and Omega too, but now we're sticking with this Golden Jets thing for God knows what reason. Or I thought we were going to get Danielson and Ospreay. I thought, what a great way to get to Danielson and Ospreay, and he's not going to be around until February. So, I don't know what to expect, and that's genuine. I don't know what to expect, because if it's like Danielson and Roddy Strong in the finals, sign me the up for that. Like, I'll be really, really excited. So I'm just curious what the rest of the brackets look like. I'm curious about what this is, like a triple crowning situation of New Japan Strong ROH, and this is also its own thing, but it's merging a thing that's never been done before. Like, it all sounds very muddy to me, and I haven't really gone back and like looked at any of the comments or reports about it. So I'm just letting it be muddy. But that is kind of what we started with. So I'm not mad about Eddie Kingston and Jay Lethal being here, largely because I don't really give a crap about Jay Lethal. And there are suitable contenders in ROH. Now I'm just like, is Eddie Kingston going to make it to Final Battle as champion? Because I don't know with this tournament starting. So we'll see.
So two things. One, in this neck of the woods, we call it the E1 because you can't call it the C2 because then it makes the G1 sound like it's better. I don't know why people don't have marketing brain when they think of these things. I get that it's C2 because Continental Classic, it's 2 C's. Call it the E1. It's the Elite One. You can't call it the A1 because that's A, a steak sauce, and B, a wrestling promotion owned by Ethan Page that comes back in February next year.
Yeah.
And then the W1 is what you fill out when you are either, was it unemployed or is it an IC? Either way, it's a form you fill out. It's a government form. The E1, that's what you call it because it's the Elite One.
I think it's a little too close to the G1, and I think the C2 is more of a wink and a nod to the G1 is probably where they're at.
No, call it the E1 because now they're putting a New Japan title on the line with it. So I was under the impression at first that Eddie just misspoke, but then they did not retcon it. They jumped right into it, and Tony was like, first Triple Crown Championship. I'm like, Nakajima he has a Triple Crown Championship in AJPW. Like, what are we doing here? Stop talking about it as a big Triple Crown because there are bigger ones, but that's just the nerdy wrestling fan in me. And also because Sean was talking about Nakajima being like a potential signee. And I was just like, he's in real tag league, which is what AJPW calls it, which is hilarious. It's like they're just piggybacking off of New Japan's dick. But anyway,
it is.
When Eddie was like, yeah, I'm going to put both titles on the line in every defense. I'm like, great. He's doing a TurboGrafx homage. If anyone's a Black Label Pro fan, the Black Label Pro champion is in the TurboGrafx 2-day or 1-day tournament, and they put the title on the line every single time they wrestle in that tournament. Eddie's going to do the same. Cool, wonderful. But now what does that do for the titles? And what does that do for Final Battle? Because again,
what does that do for both promotions is my thing. And again, I'm not mad about it because I think there's a lot to be gained from the New Japan Strong talent pool working with the Ring of Honor talent pool. It's just felt like they have not had a plan for ROH at all over the course of the past year, and I don't want them to derail my other favorite promotion right now and its sub-promotion with New Japan Strong. But I think it's cool because New Japan Strong is running basically once a month right now, and to have your ROH Strong title holder show up, I think could be really good if things are planned right. And to have like Gabe Kidd and Tom Lawler or whoever the hell show up on ROH television is a great thing, I think. But they have to do so with care and intent, and that has not been their strength of late in ROH or arguably AEW, if you ask me, for this pay-per-view. So I have my hesitations, but I think there's a lot of upside to the possibilities of it. It just feels like, are those upsides going to come to fruition with this? And yes, how is it going to play out in the tournament?
So Tony Baloney sends a super chat saying Brian beats Eddie in the C2 or the E1 and then loses to Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. So Kazuchika Okada then becomes the New Japan open weight champion, New Japan strong open weight champion, and the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight champion. I don't think Okada is going to be working Ring of Honor. And if he does, hell of a get. And I don't know what the deal is, but it's going to continue the longstanding Tony Khan owned tradition of not having your Ring of Honor champions on the weekly television.
It's what we do now. I mean, there is something very interesting there of Danielson not winning an AEW title, but winning an ROH title in this final run is actually like a really, really cool story. I'm wondering if we see like a Daniel Garcia win it, because that could be really, really cool. That could be really, really good for both brands. That could be really good for Daniel Garcia. If you want to tell this story of Daniel Garcia is working his way under the wing of the Blackpool Combat Club, that's a really great way to have him and Wheeler kind of be at odds again, because Wheeler is losing and they've had this whole rivalry before. Like, there's some very, very interesting possibilities there. Or I mentioned Roddy Strong, or someone like of that caliber that is really great, has some history with ROH, could do some really great work in New Japan, and isn't necessarily ripe for a title on the AEW roster right now, which is kind of what I was hoping would be the case from ROH in general. So I think there's a lot of possibilities. I just want to see how it plays out. But Eddie Kingston never misspeaks. You should know that by now. He is perfect. He's never done literally anything wrong in his entire life. I don't care if he's gouged people's eyes out on 232nd and whatever street. Okay, he is an angel among men.
Just want to put it out there that you are, you know New York, and you know that there is no 232nd Street. Oh man,
I'm not trying to be a snitch about where Eddie gouges people's eyes out.
He lives in Hell's Kitchen. Anyway, Chris sends a super chat saying problem is winning the Ring of Honor title right now. It's just a prop. And this is that's kind of the thing. It's like when Eddie won, people were like, yourself included, by the way, I'll speak for you, very excited at the prospect of the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship being defended at Ring of Honor shows. And to a certain
it has been a couple times. Yeah, like that's been good. But it also feels like AEW is in a spot where, like, it feels like he's really, really, really white hot right now. And I think they want him on the main roster, which is the same thing they ran into with Claudio. But they wanted to play out the Claudio and Eddie story, right? So there's a solution there, and it's called separating your rosters. And they need to do it, and we've been talking about it for months.
And they started doing it with Collision because of what was going on politically in the company, and they still do certain things to make it happen. I know we're talking AEW versus Ring of Honor, putting the Ring of Honor talent on Ring of Honor, but like my point being is that
Ladders of Honor.
They started kind of playing with it, and then they stopped, and just they run into these taping issues where Rampage is live one week and then Collision's taped. It's just like things get kind of messed up and screwed up in the shuffle, or they have to tape at the Dynamite tapings, but they can't tape at the Collision tapings. It's just a really strange situation they have.
They know that, right? That's my thing, is they know that, and they know the Young Bucks aren't working Saturday, so why were they 6-man title holders, right? Like, things like that are what drive me crazy about it. Not to mention Samoa Joe just vacating the title was like just an insult to anything that title's ever meant. But it'll be interesting. I'm just hoping that they have a plan in place, and I'm intrigued to see what the rest of this looks like. Because initially I was just thinking this is going to be the best of AEW. Now that they're merging those titles, I'm like, well, are we going to get Tom Lawler in this? Because he's been their most successful champion over there with that title. Gabe Kidd challenged Eddie Kingston. Is he going to be in this tournament for this title challenge? Are we going to get Bad Dude Tito over there? Because we should, because he rules. There are things that like, is Kojima going to be in this all of a sudden? Like, there are things that are running through my mind with this, some good, some bad, but I just hope they announce the bracket sooner than later because I want to know.
And I don't want any of that outside talent, by the way. I've been a proponent for making this a AEW heavy and Ring of Honor too, because they fall under the same banner. I know we just talked about splitting up everything, but I would rather have a AEW specific Continental Classic than the best of the best from everywhere in the world. Like, that's not how the G1 operates either in New Japan.
No.
I'm saying it's apples to apples, but like, Tony wants to make this the premier blah 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 tournament. You got to do it with your guys because you have a ton of potential breakout stars from this thing.
I agree, and I think, I mean, in the G1 we did see Eddie this year, and we did see Mike Mizanin, obviously, but is Mike Mizanin going to be in the C2? Like, these are things we need answers to.
Soon to be Intercontinental Champion, Mike the Miz Mizanin.
But I'm with you because it also felt like, up until this pay-per-view, it felt like they kind of flipped the switch of getting back on track a little bit. And I think they're still heading in that direction. But I thought a tournament of underutilized AEW younger talent is a great way to get this product back to feeling different than it has. So I would personally like to see that. Now, there's exceptions that I thought might be there, Will Ospreay being one of them. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm kind of more like, keep those worlds separate until those titles are merged, and then you can have some fun with that New Japan Strong brand.
Chris sends a super chat saying we have to accept that Ring of Honor is AEW Dark at this point. By the way, that's okay. Like, yes, it is. When Ring of Honor was purchased, the report that went around, and that's from Cassidy Haynes over at Body Slam, was that this was going to be more of a developmental territory, not in like the WWE way, but like in a, we're filtering you through here because you'll get your start here, you'll get your name, which is very classic Ring of Honor. They even leaned into that shit when they got purged in 2016 of talent. When all their biggest names went over to WWE and NXT, they were like, we produce the best talent that move up in the world. And we're like, well, you just made your company sound like it's fourth best, but you do you. That's what Ring of Honor was kind of slated to become. And if they just lean into it, I don't think that would be such a bad thing.
I would say that there are issues with that. One is that AEW Dark didn't have champions that were absent. AEW Dark didn't have a history that gave birth to a lot of the stars that you do have there. And most importantly, AEW Dark did not charge you $9.99 a month to sit and watch the show. There are some very important distinctions. I don't have a problem with it being a developmental brand. It absolutely should. That roster is bloated. I do have a problem with it being something that insults your intelligence along the way as a fan and charging more than any other wrestling product charges for it. That is a huge issue. So it's a little bit of both. I would hope they'd use it as a developmental brand. Like, I would hope Lee Moriarty, of all people, has somewhere to be a pro wrestler. That's insane. Calling him developmental is almost insulting. Like, but if you're not going to use him on the AEW main roster, my God, put this guy somewhere, right? So I have no problem with it feeling developmental. I have problems with it feeling developmental and aimless. And I have problems reviewing it if it's going to feel aimless, because I don't have any days off anymore, Joel.
Yeah, that's a Kate problem. I mean, I'm very protective of my Tuesdays and my Saturdays when I can be. Tony Baloney sent a super chat saying the Ring of Honor Championship changes feel like, sorry, I had a big itch. ROH title changes make me feel like ROH is done, or make me think ROH is done. I don't necessarily think it's that. I think some of it is like hoping that someone sees this, picks up, and gets interested in Ring of Honor, but they just never pull the trigger on anything past the victory. We talked about this, the 6-man tag titles. Why did they go on the Hung Bucks? Nobody knows. The Jericho winning the ROH championship, everyone was like, oh, they want a TV deal out of this. They're using Jericho to get a TV deal, which, if it's true and that's the way it was going, they tried. It failed, but they tried. They moved to Claudio. The idea was that Claudio was going to make some new talent out of this. You can argue whether or not he did, but like, at least there was some idea of what was going on. And you're watching it now. Does it feel rudderless, or does it feel like there's something of a plan? What's going on?
No, it seems a lot like Rocky Romero has a lot to do with the New Japan Strong brand. And so color me not surprised at all when Rocky Romero is behind a brand and they pick up a working relationship with another company that seems like it could lead to some really fruitful places. That guy, I don't think has slept a day in his life, and his legacy to wrestling is just one of the most incredible ones that is extremely underrated in my opinion. I don't think they do this if there isn't a plan in place, but I just have a hard time having faith that ROH has a plan in place because we've seen hints of that before, and it's been very much a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. The storytelling has gotten better. There has been more consistency with who's in what stories, who is in what divisions. There's still a long way to go with it. The only thing that hasn't really kicked in yet is like the champions still aren't around, but the stories have gotten significantly better. So there is some hope in that. And quite frankly, I don't think you're putting Ronda Rousey on, even if it's a one-off, which it, at this point at least appears to be, on your Ring of Honor brand. If you're planning on killing it, that would be really, really weird. Like if you're taking one of the most available or one of the most notable available names and throwing it on your brand that requires a subscription to see kind of right before a major pay-per-view is an interesting call. So I'm intrigued by that. I actually think, and I always make the clarification, like personal issues with Ronda Rousey aside, right? That's one thing. If you are going to decide to use her, Ring of Honor kind of feels like the perfect home for her, in my opinion. Like it's less promo intensive. The work rate of the women there is in lockstep with her style of wrestling. Like her versus a Layla Hirsch or her versus an Athena, I think is probably better than her versus like a Britt Baker per se. Like people who are really like in the weeds on the pun extremely intended now.
Thank you.
On the in-ring in that style, like Ronda Rousey versus Trish Adora, I think could be really cool. So I am intrigued by that piece of it. Like if there's somewhere for Ronda Rousey in pro wrestling, if that's the route she wants to go, that's probably the right brand for her. You don't have people don't give credit to the challenges that WWE wrestlers have of not that Ronda Rousey was ever like gave any great promos, but she should have been healed the whole time. And when they started doing the piped in crowd noise crap, like you have to then time out your promos in a certain way. And they have rules about how much you can and can't move. And that makes it very hard to come across as a natural talker in environments that have so many restraints on them. Right. So maybe somewhere that's less promo intensive that caters to things. Tag teaming with Marina Shafir is like a whole different thing that maybe could be something that's really good for her. So I just hope they don't do any cocaine spots to blow this deal with New Japan and whatever they might be headed towards. That's all.
I mean, they're not heading to CW, so it's okay. They can do whatever they want wherever they want.
Thank goodness.
That's right.
The sinister minister is going to show up.
It's okay. Matthew Hook sent a super chat saying, should AEW run G1s for the women's tag trios and more? I would rather see how this goes. They already have the women's Owen, and that doesn't really go anywhere. Neither does the men's for that matter. But I know that in wrestling, there's a lot of like, well, if the men are doing it, then the women got to do it too. I don't think you need to do that all the time. I don't think that, especially running concurrently, if you're going to do it in this particular, content or this particular concept goes far and gets a lot of popularity and it's a big deal, and Tony is up to the task to book more than one women's match, on an episode of Dynamite, then you might be able to do it again with the women's division, but maybe in the wintertime or maybe in the spring, or just not immediately following the men's. That's kind of how I feel, is you start with one, see how it goes, and then extend it to other divisions. I don't know how you feel about that.
Mixed, because I don't have faith that they would pay it off in a meaningful way yet. I do think I will say, I think considering the constraints on screen time, the booking has gotten better. I think both champions that got crowned yesterday are white hot, and they don't always strike while the iron's hot, and they did yesterday. I think seeing Sky Blue and Julia get in the mix is something that's really healthy and good, because we haven't had new names around the title pictures in a long time. And there are stories going on with the titles and outside of the titles that are fruitful for the women's division. So I think that is good. You are still handcuffed, however, if you have your screen time be so limited, as we've seen. So I'm encouraged by the better booking, and it does seem like there is longer term thought into, okay, well, there's a story right there with Julia and Willow, right? So that might be a title lineage handover that makes sense. There's a story right there right now, obviously, with Toni Storm and Mariah May, and wherever that goes, that could be a title handoff that makes sense. So you're seeing longer term thought in the women's division, I think. As far as running a tournament goes, I would love to see that, because I would like for women to get more screen time, and I would like for the talent utilization of women to improve, which I think, again, we're seeing more of. Like, there's fresher names in these things. Ruby Soho has something to do, even though she's not in a title picture, right? Like, things like that are improving. So I would like to see it, but it's also like the end to what end aspect of it. Of tournaments are great for setting up stories for people in tournaments, ideally for every single person in a tournament. I don't trust them to do that with such limited screen time. So I would like to see them attempt it. I would like to see them do so with a tremendous amount of care that I don't think that they've earned. If that makes sense.
It does. You trailed off with the word earned.
Oh yeah, no, that was under. I don't think they've earned my trust in that.
Gotcha. Okay. We're 42 minutes in, and we have barely gotten past the Ring of Honor stuff.
Good. Y'all should stick around for the main event. Okay.
Yeah, the main event's going to be in about 4.5 hours. Get ready, get your popcorn, get your super chats in. I know some of you have. We're sitting on them until we get to what we're talking about, because that's what we do here. I like to keep the flow to this show. We go into, by the way, Kate, you should know, if ever you're hosting a show and you got the super chats, you go into the chat, you click the starred button, and then you unstar them as you read them. And that takes them down.
Thanks for the hosting tip, Joel. If I ever host a podcast 5 nights a week, I'll remember that.
Listen, I come in every Thursday night to take over for the Ring of Honor and the Impact post show, and y'all have an unstarred shit. So I got to sit there for a good solid 30 seconds being like, hi, Cresta Star, click, how are you? Click, 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 so that my piddly ass show can get the 3 super chats we need to get through our day.
Look, we don't always get a ton either, which is why I don't always go through that process.
The worst. I can't trust you to do anything.
If there's any, look, does that make it easier as the show progresses? Sure. Does it also make your life less convenient if I don't do that? Absolutely. What do you think is going to win in that situation?
You guys like making my world suck so bad.
Bingo.
I know.
That
you,
part.
my child, my wife, Jeremy.
Take care of me. I'm coughing.
This kid better not wake up in the middle of the night hacking again. Anyway,
I love blaming the poor kid. Yeah, punk.
No, I'm not advocating.
Get it together.
No, I'm not. Okay. Let's get right to it. ROH Tag Team Championships. We're still in ROH, by the way. So this is another like what happens at Final Battle moment, because you've got MJF teaming with Mimosa Joe, which didn't surprise me, at least. I hope it didn't surprise anyone else. They teamed up to take on the Guns. They lost. I think most people were like, oh, the Guns are going to win their ROH World Tag titles, and then they're going to show up on ROH. And I'm like, no, they're very popular on main AEW programming. I don't see a reason to put them on ROH. So with that in mind, it doesn't even matter who won. Champions retained. And now MJF and Mimosa Joe have a thing coming up. They're going to have a match. Who knows when? Could be World's End. Could be winter is coming, because Texas is where winter happens, not Montreal the week before. You sons of...
Oh, but they did Bash at the Beach in Cleveland, right?
I'm so very annoyed by that, but that's just me. Anyway,
what was not Bash at the Beach? What did they call it? But it was in Cleveland.
There was Quake by the Lake. That was Minnesota, and then there was Cleveland. Was oh my god,
Beach Break? Did they just call it Beach Break?
Yes, yeah. Beach Break. And then Jeremy was like the sunny beaches of Cleveland, and he was.
I remember him like out in his sun chair and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway. Quake by the Lake, I remember, because I rated everything and how many quakes it got that day and stuff. Like Meltzer, take your Meltzer stars and shove them up your butt. All right, I had quakes that I was measuring in, and if you don't think things got 8 quakes if they were in the Tokyo Dome,
Sheeta's brain got quaked by Toni Storm's backside. We'll get to that in a little bit, but We will. So yeah, Guns beat down MJF. They do the ambulance spot. Big Sunday Night Heat. We're out of time. WCW worldwide. It was every 90s wrestling trope on TV just kind of converged in that moment pre-pay-per-view pre-show. What are we thinking at that point? Are we just like, seriously? Or are we just kind of like, all right, little intrigue here. What was your kind of thought process when you watched it live?
I liked that they put the stipulation of if I help you defend these, I get a title shot, because that is everything. Otherwise, Joe has no reason to cooperate and win that match. And I'm glad they didn't go with the, well, I'll just beat you into submission until you give me one, because we're already getting so much of that with Max. I figured the Guns weren't going to win this. I don't see the Guns showing up on ROH. Not that you have to show up on ROH when you're a champion, but just didn't feel like the move. So I didn't mind the match. Joe was acting very face, which was fun. But like, of course, this is going to be the case. It was good that they clarified that Joe is not going to be a tag champion going forward as well, because you can't vacate the title and then be like, well, that's a distraction, but the ROH tag titles are not a distraction. That would be insane. So I think they did a good enough job with that, and the match was fine. It's the post-match, Joel, that is where this pay-per-view starts to derail.
So okay, Jeremy and I are kind of keeping track of the card as we do our show Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays on Overbook 10 a.m. And we're talking about how normally, because it's always going to be a 4-hour show, Tony has made it loud and clear that if we're charging you $50, I'm giving you a 3-hour and 58-minute show on the dot, except for that one time when the finals were happening and everything went longer because we were trying to, he admits freely, by the way, that was the one time where they were like, we had to hold out because we needed the numbers. Every other pay-per-view, and you were there when he said this, he was like, every other AEW pay-per-view, 358 on the dot. And I'm like, this guy is all about tradition. I sang it before. I'm not going to do it now, but the man is Tevia, the milkman. Anyway, so just walking down the street, tradition. Anyway, so we do it again, but this time we're keeping track. We're like, how many matches are we going to have? Jeremy's like, oh, by Saturday night, they're going to announce another like 5 or 6 matches. They didn't. Instead, they ended up doing a 9-match card. And at that point, I'm like, okay, maybe we'll just have longer matches. Some of those could really use it. Swerve and Hangman's one we're going to talk about for sure about that. And then they started running angles in the pay-per-view, and I was like, oh, that's how we do 4 hours.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, let's go back to 16 match cards, Tony. I think we need to bring that back. It didn't work. Swing and a miss in my eyes.
It was funny that I don't even have a problem with angles being done on the pay-per-view. I have a problem with them being done muddy and poorly. But if that's how you want to use your TV time, if it makes sense, it is good. God bless. But I was thinking about this yesterday, and that I felt like, I hate to be like one of the like in early AEW people, but like we were getting your Hangman versus Kenny story. We were getting your Hobbs and Starks' stories, like all those kind of longer term stories done really, really well. And then when I look at this year, my favorite pay-per-views are All Out, which had no plan whatsoever, Wrestle Dream, and Forbidden Door. I was at both of those, so maybe there's a little bias in there. And New Japan's been my favorite promotion of the year, so maybe there's a little bias in there. But a lot of other people were saying the same thing, so it's not that far off if that's the case. And those are the opposite of long-term storytelling. Like those are, I mean, there's no more snap together pay-per-view than All Out, and they crushed it. And then the other two were all-star crossover pay-per-views. Wrestle Dream less so, but like marquee matches using outside names, right? So I just don't know if they know what their secret sauce is kind of how it feels in general. And that's what a lot of yesterday felt like to me, which we'll get into. But running angles on your pay-per-view, when you don't do that many of them, did feel counterintuitive, because this should be the blow-off, not the continuation in most cases, right? So that's my only thing about running angles is you better have... I should be able to see to Revolution if you're running angles on this stuff, and I don't.
Yeah, so I'm of the belief as well that if you're gonna run angles, you're gonna run something that carries you through the next 20 minutes on the show, and then 20 months or 20 weeks. You have to do it right. And yes, whatever they were doing with the main event to me didn't work. There were, if you're a casual fan, and the dreaded casual fan conversation, if you didn't know any better, you came for the show because you were local to LA and you're like, oh, this sounds like fun, I like these wrestlers, or I like this whatever, and suddenly the main event is a switch and you're like, what the hell is this? I would have been a little upset if I was just a new watcher to the program. That was just me. I was just like, no, it's a little strange. But also I kind of knew, like, oh, we're gonna get this back on track. Like the wrestling fan and most were just like, yeah, how are we gonna go back to this? Because Adam Cole's in a boot, unless he's gonna take off the boot and be like, I'm okay. And then everyone's just like, well, no, that's not what we've been told for the last few weeks. And you're not gonna swerve us. And anyway.
I mean, there was at least intrigue from the perspective of like Adam Cole and Jay White both having New Japan history, right? Like, yeah. So that part is good, but you're not going to sell somebody at a pay-per-view and then not deliver that main event. Right. So it's kind of shot from the beginning, and it's also a load of crap from the beginning because MJF has a blown out knee and he's not cleared to wrestle, but Adam Cole has a broken ankle and he is cleared to wrestle is something that just does not work. There's no justifying that whatsoever.
Yeah, the holes were there.
Tony Khan is extremely negligent.
Yeah, there were some holes, and we're gonna get to those. But I was definitely looking at them doing a 9-match card and just being like, okay, this is different, and different isn't bad. Different is trying something new. And for someone like me who's been watching, every episode available of AEW programming, I'm looking for something to change positively, or at least take a chance. And this was them kind of taking that chance. I think that there is something there, but they need to work out what the content is that they're putting out in front of us if they're going to run angles during a show. And, they brought back someone is signing the contract and yada, yada, and we'll get to that in a minute. But it was just doing this to the main event felt very strange. And it just kind of felt, I don't know.
Yeah. It went so far out of the way is my thing. Like, yes. If you had just given me MJF and Jay White, hell yeah. Because what they did in the ring was not a problem.
And but again, the story was already there between MJF and Jay White. It was over the title. It was the title that was stolen from MJF, which I still think is the laziest booking you got. I hate it. We've talked about it. I've talked about it up and down. I don't like title stealing stories. I think they're stupid as hell. But in this case, all you had to do was play up. Yeah, I want my title back. I'm a babyface. MJF was doing this stupid ultra every wrestling fan's version of a babyface you've ever seen. That's what he's playing right now. Sure. Okay. If you're doing that, getting the title back is good enough with a good match that you can excuse it and just be like, I got my title back, blow it off, we're done. Then we did everything else. So yeah, that's right.
And on top of that, the numbers game was already in your favor, even without Juice there, because you had the guns and Adam Cole's injured. So you could have even just had the simplicity of one-legged Adam Cole trying to fight off the guns the entire match, right? Or even if you didn't, I kept saying yesterday, I was like, you sent him to a whole ass hospital, man. Like, if he was just in the back with a messed up knee from being Lexus King-and-Ized with the chair, like, they could have just had Adam Cole being there, like, I will go in if you can't, right? Like, just a couple of backstage with trainers, like, I will step in if you can't go. And he didn't go to a hospital. So now he just has like a damaged knee and not I stole an ambulance to get back knee. But it's like, how many baby face tropes can you run at one time until it delineates the main event? Now you've made Jay White look super weak in the process, like, because it was a numbers game. It was an injury. He had already wrestled on the card. Like, fatigued one-legged numbers game is too much at once for this opponent. Alex said yesterday on the post show, like, if you want to do that against Stokely Hathaway, by all means, go for that. But, like, it's Jay freaking White, and you're going to make him look like he can't be a fatigued one-legged numbers gamed against MJF is just rough. That's just rough.
So here's what I've been saying and how I feel. what we're doing with MJF, and the only way that this works is if what I'm about to say comes to fruition, is MJF is not a babyface. He's playing a babyface in every way that he's learned from wrestling. Everything he's learned from 80s wrestling, he's taking it and saying, this is the way it has to be. This is the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to be just like that Super Cena, Hulk Hogan. You insert every single Superman wrestler you've got, Roman Reigns 2015, whatever it is, you put it out there. And MJF is like the character, by the way, thinks that this is what you have to do to be the guy, to be the super hot babyface, because he's never done this before. That's the story. Now the story has to play out that he turns heel again and he just berates everyone and says, you people are idiots. What I did was stupid. I was playing every boring, storied old trope I've got, kangaroo kicks and bullshit this and this and that. I did it and you all ate it up and called me the best, but really you're just a bunch of effing marks, yada, yada, yada. That's the MJF we all know. I'm your scumbag. No, I'm just a scumbag. I'm nobody's but my cat and apparently Alicia Toots. But the point is here, the idea of Max turning and being like, this is thrown back in your face. That's the only way that I really feel like this plays out perfect.
And I don't even like that, because what I have liked about this angle until this point has been this really authentic mix of very funny comedy mixed with a sincere character arc for MJF. So you had him singing Happy Birthday to Adam Cole. You've had all the Brotato sketches. You've had all of that. But you've also had MJF learning how to trust and not knowing if he can trust somebody and questioning that because it's new to him, and having his trust cost him opportunities and things like that along the way. Like, that is what has been, in my opinion, so great about this, is you've had an actual character development arc mixed in with all of the silliness. And now it just feels like you undercut all of the character arc in lieu of doing too much silliness at the wrong time. So that's just where I'm at with it. But and again, like, MJF was already so over. Don't go out of your way to tell me to buy into stuff that you just told me isn't true. Like, that contract stipulation was the most weak ass justification in the world for, like, well, if he doesn't show up, that means he forfeits the title and gives it to me. Alex had said, and I agree. Well, why wasn't this guy putting a bounty on MJF's head for the past 6 weeks if that was the case then? Why wasn't Max in the match trying to get DQ'd the entire time or just counted out with his bum knee? Because he's not, I said on Twitter, he's not Ricky Steamboat. He's not a babyface, to your point. He's MJF. He's our scumbag, right? So I just, if what you're telling me is to ignore things that I just told you, that's not good wrestling creative. Like, don't go out of your way to tell me stuff that I'm going to have to dismiss later to buy into the match. That's just bad.
No, you have to.
No, because it's just fun.
No, you have to.
So, and it's not fun for me to get my intelligence insulted along the way when you just don't have to do any of that. You could just not do it, and then it's fine. If the better option is to not do it, that's an issue. Yeah, that's on you.
You never win this. This is my favorite, is that, well, it's wrestling, so you just got to deal with it. Well, no, you don't. You're allowed to push back and be like, no, this is why it's not great. And then, you got one dork in the chat being like, I'm going to go listen to JD from New York because he knows better. Buddy, let me tell you about what happens when JD from New York opens his mouth. All the wrestlers call him a fucking dork.
Also, like, fine, go listen to him. If you don't like what I have to say, like, that's fine. But if you can't distinguish between substantive criticism about something and just hating for the sake of hating, you're a nerd. Because, like, this is what bugged me about yesterday is the same thing that I complained about when they do it in WWE, because they do that shit in WWE all the time. Like, I just don't like this.
I've said this before. Remember there was a Twitter thing that went on. What was the thing that made you famous for the day or whatever? And yours was you went to the bathroom during your Twitter criticism, whatever. What was it?
It was like your biggest Twitter drama, and I was like, I went to the bathroom between a match and a women's match, and I ran into a friend who was chicken tenders.
So I didn't say this on mine because I was like, people are idiots. I had two. And my first one was me telling people to go, seek mental health resources because super manly man Dax admitted on the podcast with Rene Paquette that he did it. And I was like, well, now none of y'all have an excuse. And people were like, well, actually, we do have an excuse. And it became a whole thing.
Like, bro, Eddie Kingston is telling you to go worry about your mental health. Like,
yeah.
no one's a bigger badass than that dude.
It became people being like, well, actually, mental health services are very expensive where I'm like, that's not the conversation we're having here. This isn't what we're doing. So there was that. And then, which to this day makes me laugh. It's like people will find a reason to argue with you for anything. And the other thing, this is more in line with what we're talking about, was
because CM Punk saved your ass.
was me shitting on the MJF return at All Out 2021. Basically, Brawl Out. Brawl Out saved my ass because people were dogpiling on me, being like, why don't you cry more? And I was like, well, no, I thought that the MJF return and everything that was going on, it just didn't do it for me.
No, Stokely climbing a ladder for the MJF return was dumb.
Yeah, so point is, like, I just laugh at these Twitter controversies because Twitter isn't real, much like most of these things. Anyway,
they also go away in like a day. So
yeah. This is funny. So I take in none of JD's content, but someone just said he also didn't like the MJF thing. So
there you go.
Have fun. It's okay. Like, listen, if you like it, go ahead. More power to you. Go enjoy the wrestling. Go enjoy whatever you're watching. I wish some days I was in a position where I could just sit on the chair behind me on a Monday night or a Tuesday morning and watch Raw and like turn my brain off and not have to think critically about it.
Try being Alex's co-host. Forget it.
Believe me, I don't want to. Alex knows I love him to pieces. Nope.
That's real fun.
It's
sorry you can't handle the singing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I've told this before and I said it, I'll say it a million times. Alex's Sour Grab. Subscribe to Fightful Select, best $5 in the business, by the way. This is the only place I'm going to plug it. It is the best podcast to rage clean to. So if you're looking to clean your entire house, apartment, whatever, wherever you live, head to toe, spot-free, completely amazing, Alex will make you do it. And Kate too, I guess, will also help. Yeah. They will make you just scrub a little harder because you'll be so angry either with or against them.
Yes.
There is such a thing as too critical, by the way. I do agree with Ryan on that. Some people just go in for the sake of going in, and that is a thing.
No, but I don't think that's critical. I think that's hating for no reason. There's no such thing as too critical if you're actually substantively criticizing something. There's a thing as like too negative if you're just out to hate, because that's silly.
Yeah. Concussion equals no wrestling. Anything else equals go for it. I mean, listen, Tony Baloney, I'm going to tell you right now, concussions 100%. You should not be wrestling. You should probably just brain health above all, I will say. And don't turn this into an well, actually, or how about, like, no, your brain, unless you're, Shibata, your brain should stay in your skull at all times. Okay.
And he's a rather extraordinary circumstance, one might say too. I like that Alex said high praise that we get people to rage clean.
Oh yeah, it was. I appreciate you, Alex. Thank you. Let's do a show sometime, even though I just said I would never.
I think it would be so much fun to watch.
It would,
honestly.
I've said this on the Twitter. I was like, he and I have never shared a screen one-on-one. We've only done like holiday streams, or he's running on something I'm working on. It's like we've never done the full interaction, and I think it'd be hilarious in some ways.
If we get to 10,000 subscribers again, that's what we should do.
We should. Oh my God, let's do it. It sounds awful. Sweet and
I'll
sour.
Facilitate. Oh, we'll do a point counterpoint.
Oh, I hate those. Let's do it anyway. Yeah. Where are we going from here? Do you want to talk about the women? Of course you do, right?
Yeah, I feel like we could talk about the rest of the pay-per-view because there was some. It was a roller coaster ride, and I actually said this with Alex yesterday too. Like, I felt like Revolution this year was a roller coaster ride, but it ended with Max and Danielson, and so I forgave everything else because that was one of the best matches I've ever seen. This ended with one of the worst matches I've ever seen, so it was very hard for me to like get behind some of the rest of the pay-per-view. But there were some really good things in here. Swerve and Hangman, obviously. And I thought both women's matches were pretty good. I didn't love the finish of Toni Storm and Shida.
But by the way, we're gonna circle back to the Jay White. Is he buried or not? We're gonna go back to that
Oh
conversation.
yeah, our clickbait
Yeah,
thumbnail.
we're gonna come back to that. We are not completely like moving past it.
We
We
will
just want to
bait
keep talking
you
about the
with
show.
the click. Yeah,
Yes,
like we're gonna talk about it
yes, we're
still.
gonna pay off the bait. It's just coming. You know, we
Yeah.
got to build up. We like to work slow here.
Yeah, when you bait slowly, things are still coming just a little bit later. Bluetooth.com code Fightful.
You
The
might
point
call
being,
us master baiters.
Joel, it's the Lord's Day for us
For you.
non-Jewish people. No, it's please. Police. No, I thought so. Both women's titles changed hands. I think that was good. I was not an Aspan fan. I did like the booking decision. My only complaint with it is that it just felt like that Saraya pit stop really undercut Shida again. Like, if that was just one continual Shida reign, this looks a lot different to me. But it wasn't, which is unfortunate. But I think Tony Khan's biggest criticism up until recently was probably like, this guy doesn't strike while the iron's hot. The iron is hot with Toni Storm. This Mariah May thing, I think, is pretty good. I don't think this needs to be like a year-long Toni Storm title reign. I think between now and sometime at Revolution, probably, you can build up this really fun understory crazed fan, whatever they're doing with her. And I think that's a good way to have Mariah May get elevated without needing like a million gajillion wins to feel important in the women's division, because they just don't have the TV time for that. So I thought this was a whole bunch of fun. The note that she left for Tony Khan at the press conference I thought was hysterical, with the I am boarding an aeroplane. I thought was so great. And we haven't really had a character heavy title reign since Britt, and her title reign was very different than, I mean, I would say character is Britt's strength, but this is obviously like character to the next level. So whatever happens with Toni Storm when she loses it again this time, whether she goes completely berserk, I think could be really fun. I think she should show up and it snaps her back into it and she just shows up completely normal again. I think that would be hilarious if she just pretended like nothing ever happened. But this is really, really refreshing. I thought she did a really good job with this whole story. Like, her reactions whenever she was getting interrupted by Toni Storm, I thought was hilarious. Does kind of feel like she never gets to have title reigns that get her feet under her, but like, she holds almost every women's division record at this point, and she's a phenomenal record holder and ace in the ring. So I think that's really good. I just wish that they hadn't taken that pit stop with Saraya, because I feel like this whole thing would have felt like a different conversation.
We got a very generous super chat from Will Chisholm. I'm happy for Toni Storm, he says, but I hate it for Shida being the woman who holds the title for the next person. They did it to her 3 times already. It's like how Vince McMahon used to book Asuka. I'll let you hold the title until you lose it to the next person. I want to have the title. It's a very good point. I was frustrated by Shida losing the title, and I wanted her to at least have another go with Toni Storm. I was enjoying the little interactions that Toni and Shida were having. You had and it was good character work for Toni, right? Calling her Hikaru and just like being this like insane woman.
My performances.
Yeah. There was some good stuff there. I wish they had kept the title on Shida for a little while longer, because it did feel very transitional. And it's not the first time they've done that with her. They've done it with Mox as well, right? That's kind of how they loaded up his title runs, because they were dealing with injuries and Punk and all that stuff. And with Shida, it wasn't the same, but it was a similar idea in that they called an audible for Saraya. That's out there, it's known. And then it wasn't to be. Like, someone in the chat, it was like TK didn't book Saraya as champion. Well, no, I don't think there was ever a real plan until they realized, well, her entire family's here. We can do a moment. We can license the song. Like, we could build this thing as a moment. I personally think that is not a moment you need to build, but that's not my choice to make. So I just kind of I'm letting that go. But I made very clear that I was like, this was not worth doing at the time. Saraya is very clearly the type of performer who is good for, when I say this, don't take this the wrong way, the Bill Goldberg spot, the Brock Lesnar spot, the part-time performer who comes in for a major match because she has the name, she has the cachet, she has her fans, she would bring in the numbers, singles, tag, whatever it is. Her as champion, to me, didn't really need it. And then they, went back to Shida and Tony. So now we're back to Toni Storm. We took a very long route around because that is also the Tony way of booking. When he has his tunnel vision of how he wants to book something, but something goes awry, he takes the emergency route on the highway and then always has to verge back on. That's always my one frustration with him.
I will say with Toni Storm, though, you could make the same argument for her, and that both of her first 2 title reigns were defaults because of injury, right? Yeah. So I think it's good that Toni Storm is getting an intentional title reign. And I also think, while I agree with you, I've been really enjoying this. Maybe they could have extended it till Winter is Coming or World's End, but at the same time, characters like this can get exhausted if you ring them out too much. And I think the timing was actually pretty good with this. I think it's just more unfortunate for Shida. I think more people feel, but like you kind of had to do it here because you can really wear this kind of crap into the ground.
You can. And this is something that that's rare in AEW. And this is one time where I would have said, given the way that the match ended last night, I would have done a disqualification. And Toni would have been absolutely beside herself. And you have Mariah May show up and be like, no, it's okay. You'll get it back. You'll do it. And Shida eventually does they do a rematch. And that's where Toni wins, maybe even with a little help from Mariah, whatever it is. Just, you could have clawed it back. You could have given Toni a little bit more madness. I just feel like there was a little bit more there to get us where it was. I even pitched the idea to Jeremy on Friday on In the Weeds. I said, what if Toni Storm doesn't win? What if it just continues down the depths of madness? What if instead she turns her work over to Mariah May and says, you know what? You go after the title. I'm going to make you the girl. I'm going to make you number one in this business. And then it drives Toni progressively madder and madder until eventually Mariah wins the title and we have to do Mariah versus Toni. And I'm not saying that happens like a year or 3 down the line. No, like you were just saying, it could happen as soon as Revolution or just sometime in the new year. To me, that just had a little more story in it. And that's where I was looking when I was thinking about the match itself and where it went, and Shida holding that AEW Women's World Championship, because there has been a lot of back and forth on hot potato for reasons that just didn't make a lot of sense in that division.
That's I think that's what Pulaski was saying yesterday too, of like her descending into madness and like losing to the point where she couldn't possibly go out there, and sending Mariah May, and then Mariah starts getting wins under her is something that could be really fun. I think you could also run back Shida and Toni Storm out of this, and then whatever Shida loses for whatever reason this time around sets up her next story. Like, in a world where people care more about ROH than they do, a Shida Athena feud in ROH would be gangbusters, right? So I think there's things that Shida could go on to that would be interesting, but you could still run this back with Toni Storm used an ass pan to win, which I did not like the booking of that part of it. I thought Shida being able to watch out for the shoe, I thought was great. Like she was prepared for the shoe twice. I thought was really cute. But Shida could certainly feel entitled to a rematch. She would just have to lose there again, I think. Maybe somebody's there to equalize Mariah May in the process. I don't know, but I think there's possibilities to run that back just on the other sides of things.
It would have been very easy. And this is just a ring placement thing. Aubrey's on the other side of the pin. That's all it should have been. And then that's a placement thing. And I know that sounds nitpicky, but at the same time, that is kind of just.
We pick nits here, Joel.
We do pick nits, and gnats too, but none in this room.
I'm an ass pan.
Yeah, no, I got what you were going.
I'm an ass pan.
Stop it. Anyway,
sing the song.
No, so
see,
that
you could never be with Alex Pulaski because you won't sing the song.
They don't pay me highly enough to do more singing. That My Vegas app just told me it's time to get more free chips. So there you go. That's the point.
Wow, gambling Joel.
Gambler. I call him Gambler, and I am going anyway. Simpsons reference for those who don't. Will Washington and I would have been a great team at one point. Anyway, and on the other side of things,
there you've got me with Alex because he's out here saying damage Kataro and so am I, and I don't even know what it means.
That's true. Good shout out to Alex for that one. That's a good one. Kataro. I think I'll just have a tab. Anyway, the women's the TBS championship match.
Yes.
Julia Hart wins. This felt very much like the plan after Wrestle Dream. I saw a lot of people being like, well, you should have just done a Wrestle Dream. Well, I don't think those people understood that Julia was kind of like, it was kind of just thrust into that title match. It kind of came out of nowhere because suddenly they were like, oh, she is 50-0. Maybe she should get a title match. And that it was just kind of like, all right, well, we can do this because this match is just happening out of nowhere. And then they built from it, which I appreciate. And of course, Julia got married and took a couple weeks off. And it was like, if you're going to make a new champion, maybe don't then go immediately on vacation. Do not talk about Roman Reigns. The point being here, they had Julia Hart go in, win the match. Chris Statlander didn't eat the pin. Sky Blue did. Thank God she didn't wear her Scooby Blue outfit. And I'm happy for Julia Hart. I think she deserves this. I think that this is a well-defined character that continues to grow. She's so stupidly young that she can continue to get better, which is so annoying to say because I'm old. And this is an opportunity that hopefully is not squandered, and she sees it. It's great.
Everyone in the chat, talk about Roman Reigns if you want with that vacation comment.
Yeah.
I also really liked the rematch because while I thought Chris Statlander's reign ruled, and that Chris Statlander rules, there weren't a lot of stories in her reign from like a character standpoint. So for her to have a rematch that was built into a story, I thought made sense. And I liked that they worked it into a triple threat because they don't do a lot of triple threats in AEW in general, which is good because I don't like them. But in this case, it made sense. And I thought the story was great and that it felt like it was the two of them versus Chris for a lot of this. And it should have been. And it felt like the odds were just kind of stacked against her and that made sense. The only thing I didn't like is like, okay, is Sky Blue, is she creepy or not? Like, is she, she's definitely creepy, but is she creepy with Julia Hart? Is she creepy because of Julia Hart? Like, we never really got clarity around where Sky Blue is as far as an alliance to her. And I don't think you can have dueling creepos in the women's division when it's that vague. So I would like to see where that goes. But man, good for Julia Hart. She clearly has put in the work because she has grown tremendously. Everyone talks about the character side, which is true, but her in-ring has come along so far. Again, I like that they're striking while the iron is hot. I think the mark of a great title reign is, did you make a new star? When do you drop it? And I think that happened in this match. And part of it was because Julia has been great. And part of it was because the match was great. And it made Julia look really good in the process. So I think this was absolutely the right call. And I am intrigued to see where this goes. I think it ends hopefully with Willow being the next one to take it over because they have some rebuilding work to do with Willow Nightingale. Let me tell you.
Yeah, but first, Talp makes up a really good point here. Now we need Griff Garrison to kind of be getting big to complete the Varsity Blondes redemption arc.
He's on ROH. He's doing work on ROH, and he's doing pretty well down there.
Yeah, but who the F is Griff Garrison?
Yeah, I don't know. Is that the guy with Jungle Boy hair?
No, I think he's the guy who's over on NXT. He's a king now.
Looking to put his sunglasses away?
Yeah. Oh, forget it.
Where did I put those?
Now, where did I put that pocket? Lousy new jacket. Should have tested this before I went out there tonight.
It was just so funny, too, because on that clip, you can see how intense and personal the interactions with Carmelo and Trick were. And then for Brian Pillman to be like, yeah, I'm coming as the spoiler in this whole picture. As soon as I put these sunglasses away, things are getting real messed up for all of you.
I don't hate, by the way, sidebar. I don't hate what they're doing with him. I just hate the way his hair looks. It's the hairline that just scares me. It's very straight cut.
What is going on with that facial hair?
There's the beard, but it's also just the way that his hairline's been cut. It's very squared off.
It's very weird.
He went to, I don't know, man. He picked the wrong barber. That's what he did.
He's become the Judas in his mind.
Yeah, haircut tells us. Anyway, yeah, so stop it. The Scooby-Doo gear bugged me because of what were we doing with Sky Blue and being, is she spooky or is she just trying to be, I don't know. It was weird. I talked
It
about
was
it.
a mystery, and she was in a mystery machine.
No, that's an awful way to do it. Someone should have been like, "Are you gonna do it? You wear all black with some blue trim," which is what you did last night, and it was good. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into who should wear what, but I mean, for the sake of telling a story, just the mystery machine gear was weird.
Wow, stop trying to tell women what to wear, Joel.
I'm going to. And people are like, it's a mystery. No, it's not a mystery. It's
You know what, Joel?
Scooby-Doo gear.
We talked about Tony Storm, and your tits weren't out the entire time.
They can't be. I'm not wearing a V-neck, so I can't pull it down enough.
Chin up. Tits out.
Joyce,
you knew we were talking about her. You should be in your finest Adam Cole baby deep V collared shirt. Is what you should be in.
My wife looked at the shirt today and was like, is that a Boston Bruins shirt? I'm like, no. And then I had to explain Adam Cole in NXT and how I got the shirts. I got the shirt for like $10 because I was touring. This was pre-pandemic, and every show I wore a different wrestling shirt over my jacket. And that was the gimmick. And I wore
over your jacket?
Yeah, I got a denim vest that I would wear on stage. Oh, God damn it. Under my jacket. I got to listen. My kid was in the hot. We don't need to watch. Oh, God. What's next? What do you want to talk? Should we?
OC and Mox, you want to breeze through it real fast?
Yeah, I really like what they did there. I don't think Mox should have won, and he didn't. So I was happy with OC getting that victory. There's more story to tell with him. I'm looking forward to what they can do with him because I think that there's more meat on the bone with OC's character right now than Mox's. Because Mox is going to go and have an IWGP World Heavyweight, IWGP US UK beaten down with a hammer match.
Intercontinental title, but not yet.
Yes, the Intercontinental Bruv title.
The Bruv title.
The
Bruv Mate title. Yeah.
The new Bullet Club Leaders Championship match.
I didn't love this, surprisingly. There's nothing wrong with it per se, but I had really high expectations for this match because the first one was so good. And if Orange Cassidy was going to retain here, I felt like he should have left Mox in a pool of his own blood, which, to be honest, doesn't seem that difficult to do and did not happen here. He was busted open, but a stiff breeze knocks Moxley open at this point. For a pay-per-view called Full Gear, this did not feel like it got into the next gear. And I just thought, and I think Alex was saying the same thing. It was so difficult because we go till like 3 a.m. my time. But I think we were on the same page of, I thought Orange Cassidy was going to be chasing Mox as a white whale for like a good part of his career. And I don't mind OC retaining here because it definitely feels like Mox as going on to some sort of Blackpool Combat Club, House of Black, multi-person feud, which will be awesome. What I need then is for this Orange Cassidy title reign to feel different than the first, and they haven't done that yet. I think they probably will now because this is kind of like the hump to clear, right? So what is the next chapter in the Orange Cassidy story? Because the first piece of it was so perfectly done. Like, it was excellent. And I don't want this to feel like a continuation of that or lesser than it. So what does this next title reign fully mean is interesting. So I don't hate this by any means. I just am curious to see where it goes next because this is just not what I thought we were going to be getting out of it. So I want them to have a really strong follow-up to this because if the move wasn't to go through with what was most assuredly initially a Mox International title reign before some audibles and some injuries, right? I think that we need Orange Cassidy to have a different feeling reign than his first one around.
Yeah, and this is the beginning of that, in my opinion, because they did get a little bit of something out of him, and I'm looking forward to it. I think Mox with the International Championship isn't needed at this point. I don't necessarily think Orange Cassidy needs to hold it because he's already proved his point with it. He can move on to a different title, but right now the lanes aren't really open for him to do it because none of the stories really fit. So we'll see. But people are saying, winter's coming, could be the next rubber match. Someone has said in the chat, they couldn't really do all that much in terms of like the physicality because the death match was still to come. And that's a really good point, assuming that the coaches were talking about it and going through it throughout the day, because this is one criticism of AEW is that sometimes the coaches don't exactly talk about what's going on in between each match or what's happening in each match, and they're trying not to do the same spots, because that's one thing that a coach is supposed to do, is make sure that you're not repeating this.
Wish NXT would do that, because every Tuesday I'm like, you literally just did this in the match before.
Yeah, but then you got Road Dogg in the back just being like, Wade Barrett had a baby with another man. Do you get it? Do you get it? This is funny. Comedy.
And Booker T being like, he had a baby with champagne wishes and caviar dreams. That baby's got more heart.
Shucky ducky, quack, quack, baby making time.
Every Tuesday of my life.
I said this once, I say it a million times. I am not in favor of AI technology except for two things. One, making my cover letters for job applications, and two, Booker T on commentary. That's the only time I will ever accept AI technology as it's as superior. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Lord.
Shucky. Yes, DQQ. It's got a damn acronym now.
Blocked. Banned from the chat.
No.
Exiled.
No, I want to make them a mod now. Oh God. Let's move forward. The ladder match, I don't really have much to say because two reasons. One, it just kind of felt there. And by the way,
I loved it.
Yeah, it was fine. It was a ladder match. Like AEW does ladder matches well. It was fun. People beat the shit out of each other, got hurt, and then Ricky Starks. Yeah, it was good. It was fun. But I'm saying, like, in terms of storyline and character development and all that stuff, it was like, yeah, Ricky and Big Bill won, and that's great. But yeah, they made it a ladder match at the last minute on Collision, and it was fine.
It was a ladder war, Joel.
No, that's in that's in the Ring of Honor.
No, did they say it was a ladder war?
I don't know. That's a Ring of Honor thing. Is it a ladder? It's a ladder match.
I thought they said ladder war. Anyway,
no,
I thought this was a whole mess of fun. Mess of fun is a good description of that, actually, because it was the only thing I didn't like was the weird spot where Dax was like, "We are the only two that are in the ring, and we are going to tip this ladder over anyway." That was weird, but the rest of this I thought was so much fun. I like this. I feel like it does give Ricky and Big Bill a little bit of oomph here. What I did not like was it definitely tipped the hand of the booking of the next match, which I am not excited about at all. I thought that if FTR won here, we would probably get the Young Bucks beating the Golden Jets to have FTR versus the Young Bucks again in a rematch. So it didn't totally tip it because you could still very easily run the Young Bucks against Big Bill and Ricky, but I was like, oh no. The Golden Jets are going to dethrone them, and I'm going to be so annoyed. But I'm happy for Ricky and Big Bill. I think them having like a win where they beat a bunch of other really credible teams is really good. The Gonzo Bomb, people were pointing out in the chat, Roosh and Cash at the top of the ladder, and then just climbing down to beat on each other. Yeah, like not all of this was clean or made sense, but it was a mess of fun. And well, I will say, this was a well-paced card. Like, things were placed in appropriate places, except the women's title match being so early was weird. But I felt like the builds going into this pay-per-view this was a much more evenly paced build than we normally get. And I thought the sequencing of the card was good. But I thought this was a whole mess of fun at a spot where it kind of needed it, especially with the Texas Deathmatch coming up. I loved this. This was probably my second favorite match of the night.
Your favorite being the Golden Jets versus the Young Bucks.
Obviously.
Yes. Let's just breeze through that. Young Bucks taking pages from Chris Jericho and Christian with their temper tantrums. That was fantastic. I loved it. I don't care for...
Oh my God, we didn't talk about the 6-man that opened the show, by the way.
On this day, I see clearly Ric Flair got kicked in the dick. There, look, we did it. Hooray.
There was a choir of children with no father that sang Christian out.
No, they were all Christian. Christian adopted them before the show. That's how we got them on the stage. Because someone had to give parental consent, and that was Christian. He said, get out there. And they're all like, well, what about parental consent? I'm like, well, I'm your daddy.
So that's how this goes.
Yes.
Nigel on commentary this entire pay-per-view. unbelievable.
Always good.
Unbelievable. He's always the best. And now that he's like settled in at AEW, I feel like he pushes things a little bit more and more and more every time he's on. Unbelievable.
Christian Cage is the biggest babyface in professional wrestling, and he continues to prove it every single time he hits old man Ric Flair in the dick.
Yes.
So I don't have anything else to say, because quite frankly, if we're just trying to get to Edge versus Adam Copeland versus Christian for the TNT Championship, then yippity doo dah, just do it in Montreal, please.
Christian politely jogging off to abandon his team was
so good,
amazing. Not walking off and not running off. The cursory I'm coming in from the bullpen jog that he did, dead. Huge missed opportunity that Luchasaurus was not in a mock turtleneck. Give that dinosaur a mock turtleneck.
You have to understand, it's not part of dinosaur fashion, because dinosaur fashions did not include turtlenecks. They respected the turtles back then, 65 million years ago.
Well, it's a different time, but I do think he maybe needs to earn it. Like, you got to earn your mock turtleneck, I think, to be a part of the patriarchy.
Are you saying he needs to adopt a child?
Maybe that's how it's done, or adopt a baby dino.
That'd be nice. He can adopt.
Kick the baby.
No, don't kick the baby. Anyway, not the mama. That's a really old shout. That's a really old shout.
That is.
Yeah. Oh man, that was.
If you don't know it, which is probably anybody below our age, which is probably most people watching.
God, we're old.
So old.
Yeah.
I have no love for. I mean, I have plenty of love for Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in this. I don't give a shit. I don't know. Maybe you're Canadian. You're Canadian. Is Winnipeg enough to unite people? Like, I do not care about face Chris Jericho ever, and I don't buy that him and Kenny Omega are united by Winnipeg and a mutual hate for Don Callis as a way to turn on the Bucks. I do think the Bucks work better as heels, but I just could not give less of a crap about this Golden Jets nonsense, like, at all.
Former Manitoba bureaucrat Don Callis has all the power, and then those two guys hate him. He could just go off and bam, have their citizenship revoked just like that. But no, it's not where it is. I don't even, the Peggers don't even care about Winnipeg. That's true. All pegging aside, they just don't care. And yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't care. The Golden Jets thing, I think people immediately were like, oh, when Jericho said, oh, it's an homage to Bobby Hull, everyone was like, nope, shouldn't be. Don't look him up on the internet because you'll find out why. But yeah, to make a long story short, don't care. If they win the tag titles, then what are we doing here? If they lose the tag titles, well, what are we doing here? Kenny's going to turn on Jericho instead and join up with the Bucks? Are we turning the Elite heel? Where does Hangman sit with all that? We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But yeah, the match itself, they had to go after that amazing, blood fest that was the Texas Death Match. But other than that, the match was just kind of there, and that was it for me.
The Kenny almost turn spot was good. The I'm going to V-trigger that guy. JK, I'm going to V-trigger you. I felt like he did that really well. And the one-winged angel that he kicked out of, I've never rooted so hard for somebody to get finished by their own finisher. Because I just did not want this. Especially when the stipulation was they can never tag again. I was like, please let them never tag again. I don't know anybody who's so I am in on this. No thanks.
It's funny because I was thinking to myself, oh man, while I watched that match, remember everything we just talked about at the top of the show an hour and a half ago about Vegas hotels?
Yes.
Yeah, I spent most of that match just looking at Vegas hotels and cursing resort fees. I'm just hating everything while I watched the match on my other screen, just being like, yeah, it exists. And I saw the V-trigger spot and I was like, oh, cool.
This also followed the death match. So it was any match that was going to go here was going to be the anticlimactic spot. I was glad it was not a women's match. I applaud them for that because it normally is. So that was really good, especially when you had 2 title changes. But I was actually really glad this was there because I didn't care about it anyway. And so for them to do this in the spot where I automatically don't care about it, I was like, good job, guys.
So yeah, now the Bucks are going to turn. I'm all for this, going somewhere. It's just got to go somewhere. And I don't need...
I'm so sick of seeing the Elite reunite and break up, though, man. Like,
me too. Don't get me wrong.
Do something else.
Do something else. And like, again,
make new friends. Get out there. Socialize.
Yeah, we gotta
get on an app or something. I don't know.
Those high school friends. They all stick together and they never make new friends.
My God, you nerds! Move on from your hometowns, people. There's a whole world out there.
I've lived in this city longer than I have, as long as I have from my hometown. So there you go.
Well, it's not Winnipeg, so I can say that for you.
God bless.
It is not Hamilton, which I know you have major heat with.
We interviewed Ricky Shane Page on In the Weeds on Friday, and he praised Hamilton. And in that moment, I realized two things. One, I hate Ricky Shane Page. Now I want to fight him. And two,
why are you always trying to fight badasses, dude? First Steve Macklin.
Oh yeah,
now Ricky Shane Page.
It's funny.
You gotta pick weaker opponents, bro.
Nah, typically Jeremy has to ask the wrestler, "Will you fight or will you punch Joel Pro?" This time I was like, "Ricky, I'm going to be upfront. We have a bit here where we often get the guests to fight me. I'm just going to put cards on the table. I want to beat you up for this." And that was that. So now I got to beat up Ricky Shane Page.
I feel like that's not going to end well for you.
He lost his title, so now I got to retcon his whole article or his whole interview, because when you're on our show, you don't lose. Whatever you're promoting, you're there to win. You lost.
Not be a big loser. He's going to be mad, though, and he's going to take it out on you, so.
Let him.
Him and Steve Macklin and you in a triple threat. I don't like your odds, sir.
I got Speedball. He likes me.
We're gonna talk. We should talk Speedball after we talk this stupid.
Because we also had Joey Janela, and Joey Janela lost his match against Kenta. So nobody's winning any of the interviews we have. Kip Sabian's like, "Hey, I want to do podcasts," and we're like, "Yeah,
That's what's up." He also was like, "I want to do the sessions, though," so I feel like maybe our numbers on Overbooked are not necessarily what Renee's.
He knows what we bring beyond the interview. He knows what value we add.
Fair.
None, by the way.
You gotta talk Ospreay signing, Deathmatch, or
let's talk Ospreay signing. Was it a big deal to you? Was it a big enough deal for you? Was it good for you? Did you like it?
Was it as good for you as it was for me, Joel? Because this was great.
Tell me about it, bruv.
I feel like if you don't think it's a big deal that the best wrestler in the world, who wasn't even technically available, is a marquee multi-year signing, you are a nerd. You gotta stop. We knew it wasn't Mercedes, right? And Mercedes is injured, so it's not even a possibility. The next biggest name, I was gonna say on the market, but he wasn't even on the market, is Will Ospreay. Like, what did people expect?
Well, what's funny to me
Brock Lesnar is signing. Get
Goldberg
out of here, you dorks.
Goldberg. But no, here's the thing. Okay. How should I put this? The idea that Mercedes can't sign because she's injured. Well, I mean, Will can't quote unquote perform until February. That's like, he's like, "Come Revolution, bro, I'm all yours." And I'm like, well, Mercedes would be the same thing. I'm not advocating that the signing should have been Mercedes. I think that there's a much better and bigger way to do it. I'd rather have her show up and insert herself into a story than be like, Tony Schiavone introduces the next signing. There's a place for that. But Will coming out, cutting a promo, good enough. I like it.
Tony Khan also didn't say, "OMG, baby girls and boys, I have the biggest surprise for you in the world." He said,
by the way, I give him full marks for that. The Continental Classic, Jeremy and I talked about this on In the Weeds, and I said, this is Tony or somebody telling Tony, dial it back. Let's not make everything the biggest thing ever.
That's an extremely fair point.
And no one would have survived.
Mercedes could have signed and wrestled in the main event with an injured leg. That's a really, really, really fair point. She could have walked out the new AEW champion.
And then no All Elite graphic, because she would have held out for the money like a smart woman that she is. Right. So anyway, what was I saying? Where was I?
Ospreay.
We talked about it on
announcement, fatigue and control. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was, I think, Tony doing a good job of underplaying and over delivering. And that's good. He didn't say this is the biggest signing of all time. He didn't do that stuff until he has not been doing it until the show itself. You've already bought in, you're already excited, and then he goes and says it's a huge signing, because at that point, you know what, the word's already out who it is. So you may as well now just play it up as bigger than big, which is okay, because at this point, the people who are excited are already excited, and they're going to show in the reaction, which was very positive for Will. Yes, Will has been on TV. Yes, Will has been in storylines, but no, he hasn't really been in an AEW specific story. It's always been coming in as New Japan talent, doing crossover stuff, and just, getting on Wembley cards, things like that. Now the big shift is, what is he going to be like in AEW once he finishes up as a New Japan talent? That's the big question.
I also saw some people saying like it was an inevitability, and I was like, it was not an inevitability. Like, WWE wanted him, TNA wanted him, New Japan wanted to retain him. Like, he's already been on AEW programming. He's already been on everybody's programming except WWE's. People thought it was an inevitability that Cody was going to resign. He didn't. People assumed Jade was going to resign. She didn't. So this, like, it was an inevitability stuff. You're fooling yourself. Have you been paying attention to wrestling in the past year? Obviously not. So that was just also very stupid and frustrating to see, but I think it's a home run. I don't think there's a better wrestler in the world this year. I think it's it sounds like it was a really good situation for everybody. I think it's a good shot in the arm to the roster, a ridiculously skilled roster as is, but like, it's never a bad thing when you add probably the best wrestler in the world to your roster. And it sounds like Will got what he wanted, of being able to stay in the UK and being able to work Japan dates when he wants to. And, now he can go get a more accurate attendance record tattooed on his arm for this year, and everything will be great.
I've been told it's part of his deal. Tony is going to pay for the surgery.
The tattoo correction, get it lasered off.
Yeah. We're going to go.
That would be a really cool moment. That's a moment you should build to. If you have Will Ospreay from February to August, you should build to him winning the title at Wembley. That's different than Saraya, where they were like, let's flip a switch. That's something you should absolutely do with Will Ospreay, and that rules.
Yeah, and I thought you were going to say a big moment is him coming out and having the tattoo corrected on TV in front of the audience. Yeah.
The following Dynamite, he should be like, here's my bicep, bruv. And they should tattoo it.
That should be it. And then he puts the AEW logo on. He's like, now I'm branded forever, bruv. Like I said, you coward, you better work hard to kill, or we're going to have problems, bruv.
I feel like a 4-pack of Ricky Shane Page, Joel Pearl, Steve Maclin, and Will Ospreay is not going to end well for you.
I got people.
You're going to get hit with a hidden blade, and it's not going to be good.
Maclin would just try so hard to beat me up, and I'm just going to kick him in the dick. That's my purse.
Shout out to, by the way, to Impact TNA. Like, I know they're in a weird spot with their programming, but they've done something really cool in that everybody is talking about one match per week that they're kind of just stalling out here, which is cool. Like, everybody's talking about the Alex Shelley match. Everybody's talking about Ospreay Alexander. Like, it's a very well done thing on their end on how do we stay in the conversation, even though we're not really doing anything relevant until basically January. I think it's clever.
Yes, except the next 2 weeks, you will be eating those words.
Oh no! Aren't we getting? Is there a Trinity and Sunny match though?
That's already happened. That was this past Thursday.
They're not going to run it back in the next two. Okay, I thought I saw something about rematch. I didn't know if it already happened yet.
No. They have not taped another one. It was just the one. I can tell you right now, by the way, Thursday the 30th of November. So not this Thursday, but next Thursday. It's going to be an all ROH episode of Post, because that's IPWF.
And we didn't show up this week, so.
That's fine. We might also not show up this week because it's their Thanksgiving episode. And all they have left in the can is the one Thanksgiving turkey theme match that they taped in Chicago. That's all they have left in the can that I know of. So
that's okay. Because if they're going it's not like they're going the nostalgia route as a cop-out. They're going the nostalgia route as we're relaunching our old brand. Like, I just think it's well done from their perspective of like leading up into a relaunch of a different brand. I don't know. It's felt smart to me.
No, there's a lot of good things that they're doing. And again, they're going to have Final Resolution in December on the 9th.
Run everybody's TikToks. Run all the hot girls doing dances together on all their TikToks. Just run 2 hours of that. People are going to be so happy.
they leaned into that the second that they became TNA again. All of a sudden, it was like, yeah, and all the knockouts are going to start shaking ass publicly again. It was like, again, I'll go back to the Simpsons. I'll go back to a Simpsons reference where it's like Homer and Marge in bed, and Marge is like, wow, Fox became such a hardcore sex channel overnight. I didn't even notice. And that's how I'm like, TNA has just become this TNA channel so quickly, and I didn't even notice.
The titties, brother.
It's the good titties. Stuff. Meet Norma said to Super Chat saying, "Sup partners." You know what? You read this. Meet Norma is your
Sup partners. My title of Tribal Beef is being questioned. I simply won't have that, darling. I'm sour about some of the booking, but still love AEW. I will say, like, the takeaways of the pay-per-view in general to me are not necessarily reflective of like the experience I had watching it, because I felt like the in-ring is always so great with AEW and there was a lot of fun to be had. But when I think about like what's next or the booking outcomes, it left a more sour taste in my mouth. But I loved a lot of what we got ring-wise from a lot of this pay-per-view.
So got a couple more super chats to get through about the event itself, and then of course talking about Jay White, because it's clickbait time. It's time to pay it off.
Yes.
Will Chisholm said, "Happy your child is okay. Thank you. He's currently coughing, but he's still sleeping." I'm literally watching him right now. I knew when they shot that angle, I said AEW fans are not going to love the ending. I assume you're talking about the way that Full Gear went off the air, or the pre-show went off the air, and then how they kind of got to the main event. So we'll start with that. The angle itself, as we talked about, was
we didn't talk about the death match.
Oh, we didn't, did we?
We did not.
Okay, well, it was good.
Joel, a man drank another man's blood.
It's true. I call him Gangrel now.
Oh God, is everything Impact with you?
What? Gangrel? Gangrel is a
around?
1990s gimmick.
Yeah,
David Heath did a couple of Impact TNA stuff. People telling us to save the best for last. Well, here we are.
I hope you save the best for last. But Deathmatch was great, and I'm not even a Deathmatch gal, but this felt like if somebody broke into your home and was messing with your child, how you would come out and try and beat the ever-living crap out of them. I thought it was a blast. A broken glass on someone's back to do a 450 onto that is insane. The let me staple myself spot is insane. The cinder block callback I thought was very fun. The barbed wire stuff was out of control. Drinking another man's blood is inherently disgusting, but like in a good way here. I just hate that they sent Brian Cage down for no reason.
So I don't think it's for no reason. They will have another match because Hangman and Cage love working each other. Page and Cage put it in a cage at Winter is Coming because they're in Texas. Let's go.
No. That feels like such a step down.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with Hangman, but I don't think...
Joel, imagine your teacher is out here drinking another man's blood. That's crazy.
Well, let me tell you about my 7th grade social science.
Whoa.
No, that would be way too amazing.
They gave us a ton of time.
They did.
I loved it. It felt personal. It was violent. But my thing with death matches is when the shock and awe of it outweighs the story, I don't like it. Like when the story is, it's a pizza cutter or it's spiky things in my head. I don't like death matches like that. When they are used to amp up the violence of the story that is in play and being told, I really like death matches. And that's exactly what happened here. They were in control of the story the entire time. It didn't get really overtaken by anything except for when he tried to drink another man's blood, which is disgusting. But to me, I'll watch death matches like that all day because the reasons I shy away from them are not because of the violence. It's because of the violence is the story aspect instead of the violence abates the story. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I was going to remind people, by the way, leave a thumbs up on the video if you haven't already, because, thumbs up. Yeah. Do it now.
We've got a big live crowd today. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Well, it's almost as if you put a clickbait title in and people want to stick around to hear about the clickbait conversation.
Or like, football's not that great today. I'll just be honest. A lot of people's football teams are not doing so great.
Everybody sucks is what we're getting at here.
Everybody sucks.
Lance Archer, everybody dies, but
everybody sucks.
Wow, it's the Ring of Honor theme now. Anyway,
maybe not. We'll find out.
Oh man, well,
we have 68 likes.
There should
literally
be 158 likes.
Well, there should be 101 more likes.
Okay, then let's go.
So then it would be 169.
Let's go. Right, fine, nice. Let's do it.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. Wilchism says, to be fair, the wrestling teachers did a lot worse than Hangman. Boxing rings.
Touche.
Anyway, I did love the match. I don't mind that Swerve won. I think he went exactly to the depths that he needed to do it. Hangman still looked good. I still wonder what becomes of Hangman now, because now that he's been dragged into this situation, he's Judas in his mind. So now he's got a feud with Jericho for the next 6 months. And
oh no,
probably not actually. It was just, it's good because I think it's asking the right questions. Now that Swerve has been so dominant, and has he taken Hangman's place, quote unquote, like he said he was going to, has this feud ended, or now is Page gonna, do stuff with Mogul Embassy? Is he gonna be in the C, or the E1 as I call it? What are we gonna do with him?
The C2R2D2 G1.
Stop it.
I will not. I think I'm really funny. Do you think this leads to an Adam Page heel turn?
No.
Whilst the Bucks are turning heel?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Do you think he reunites with the Dark Order because they have no idea what else to do?
No, but I'll tell you that people have been asking when's Stu Grayson going to show up, and I'm like, December 5th. And they're just like, how do you know? Is Stu Grayson the devil? Absolutely. Yes, he is.
I think you could do that. I think you could have Stu and the Dark Order be the devil and his gang. I
don't think it's him.
I want Stu Grayson in the C2R2D2 G1.
I do too. Unfortunately, December 5th. That's the next time you'll see him. Maybe the 6th as well. But we'll see about the other dates on there. Jay Miller saying, imagine Prime JR calling the staple spot.
By God.
By God.
He's stapling himself.
The children's art. So I said on Twitter, as he's doing the stapling, I'm like, man, if Hangman Page really wanted to be a cow dad level petty asshole, he would staple his son's artwork to Swerve. And then I look up from my screen and I take a screenshot, and Swerve has some toddler art on his face. And I'm like, God bless. That was fantastic. I needed that in my life.
That was a really fun way to make it such a personal touch. Like that kind of stuff is what I mean. Like when those elements enter a deathmatch storytelling wise, it doesn't feel like, oh my God, it's a light tube. You know what I mean?
I do, but we needed more gusset plates.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Match was good. Match was a lot of fun. Match was gory as hell, but it fit the bill, like you said. But I don't have anything to add to it, because I'm looking forward to, again, how we continue the story going into Dynamite. This is one of those matches where I was more intrigued coming out of it, given the results. I'm no longer like, oh, Hangman and Swerve at World's End because they got to have the
inevitably
third match. It's not that, though. That's not where we're at, because
that's what I mean. It's not an inevitability anymore.
Yeah.
And it also takes the urgency off of it, because this was so violent. Like, how do you up it for a third one is almost impossible. So I feel like you can do that down the line. That can be something you go back to 6-8 months from now or whatever.
And that's why I said to Jeremy, I was like, if you do a third match, the only matches you can do is some sort of cage match, because people would have had to have gotten involved. It would have been a whole, messed up finish, other than just Brian Cage. Like, and because Hangman just doesn't have friends, you couldn't. It didn't work unless you made the third match a cage match, which is not what we're doing.
No, and a cage match would not be more violent than this, and it would not feel more personal than this. I think what you do is hopefully Swerve is champion, and Adam, the next time they face off is when Swerve has the title and officially has his spot. That would be perfection.
I mean, there will be a cage match. It'll just be a Brian Cage match,
or a cagematch.net cage match. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
They'll just be nerds at ringside being like, back in, they had a PWG match in 1997 as the debut.
Thank you.
I don't know why I was shading Cage Match. They do a great job, but that was
Yeah.
just how I decided they act.
God, who are you, Excalibur?
They had a cage match back in 1997.
Get your air out. Okay. Caden sent a super chat earlier saying, shout out to Charlie from Wrestle Purist. Her tweet saying,
Hell yeah.
I was watching an AEW pay-per-view was exactly how I felt. And then Tony getting upset that we want sports-based products. Everyone's seen the comments going around, Tony being like, you know, put your money where your mouth is, and dropping F-bombs, being like the E1 is going to be a super serious wrestling contest.
Oh my God. We're really still taking Tony Khan at pressers seriously? Is that what we're doing up on the internet?
We'll talk about it offline, but no, we're not.
Charlie from Wrestle Purists absolutely rules. Go follow her if you're not. She's wonderful. She's fantastic. She does great work and is a really cool person. And flew in all the way to Full Gear from England. So God bless her. So I don't know what she had said about it, but she's probably right, Kaden. You're probably right to agree with her because she's great. The put your money where your mouth is for the C2. He's a wrestling promoter. Come on now.
No, he's not.
That would be like if Sean Ross Sapp showed up here and just started saying stuff about his match with Shaza or something.
Oh.
You're throwing up
Sean.
What are y'all doing? Complaining about Jay White losing to a one-legged man?
We're about to, because that's what the thumbnail was. So we thought
you gonna bring up Cody Rhodes with one titty beating Seth Rollins?
Well, no, because that seems like everyone else has. So I was gonna try and bring up someone else.
Doesn't really have
to.
They didn't. They gave us enough.
Everybody Zach Gowen ever beat.
He's buried, Sean. It's over. Send Jay White to Ring of Honor. It's done.
Well, hold on. I don't hate that idea. Someone that covers Ring of Honor. No, it was their most unforced error of a main event yesterday. But we stayed in Zach Gowen in this house. But
this guy's got the right idea.
I think that might be an intentional troll. It looks like.
Yes.
Hi, Sean. Are you going to eat
Hi.
eggs on here? Are you going to have some nighttime eggs?
No, but they don't pay us anything.
Very good, though.
They are. They're curiously strong.
I am curious about how they get so strong.
Do you ever eat a mint and then like sneeze while you're eating it?
No.
I have they're Excel mixed mints, and I've had these mints forever and ever. And every time I have one, inevitably I sneeze, and I don't know what it is. It's very strange. He's buried.
I don't want to catch whatever you have.
Send him to the Jets. All right, great. Well, we got
wow. So there you go. All the scoops you could ever want from Sean. He has Altoids. So subscribe to Fightful Select for more information on that.
Sean doesn't drop scoops on this show. He drops them on our Monday, Wednesday, Friday show.
In the case that we don't have an incredible clickbait headline, I want to clickbait them with Jonathan.
We always have incredible clickbait headlines. That's why we're here. That's why this show is so damn good.
Look, CM Punk hasn't done anything in a while, okay? We might be running low.
God bless him for that. I hope he never shows up.
Phenomenal trolling, though, on Instagram, I will say.
That's true.
Excellent.
If he shows up at Hard to Kill, I'm never covering Impact again or TNA.
Yes, you are. You're gonna get a pay raise. Usually, if CM Punk shows up somewhere, something good happens at Fightful. You cannot argue that he's good for business.
Could you imagine if he shows up at the TNA and I then have to send an email to the head of PR from TNA being like, can you please give me CM Punk for an interview? I promise I'm not Sean Ross Sapp. Just let me talk to him for like 10 minutes tomorrow.
The immediacy with which we would get a no.
I don't know about that. Oh, I mean, yes and no and yes at the same time. His main
event killed pro wrestling. Let's talk about it. Wrestling is dead. Alex Pulaski and I decided wrestling was dead when Chris Jericho tapped out Takeshita clean to the walls at DDT. Wrestling was dead already.
Nobody was watching that. Nobody watches Japanese professional wrestling, Kate. We've already been through this. Who are you? Bad dude Tito?
Hold on.
They call you bad dude Kato?
No, they'd call me bad gal Cater.
Oh, right. Bad gal Kato. Bad dude Kato.
Dude is gender neutral.
Yes, that's true.
Dude is gender neutral. I would
but-
be proud to be a bad dude Tito follower. I would, whatever the baddies were to Jade, I would be for bad dude Tito.
What would they
A
call them?
Titet? I don't know.
Titet.
Tito rules.
Teton. CMLL
A
wrestler.
titty. Hey-oh!
Chris earlier said if Jay White is good, he will overcome losing to MJF. So
He will, but they got work to do, brother.
So they do. It's funny because this is like a very curious case. Jay with a very strong promo on Wednesday can absolutely turn it around, and that's that. If they don't bring up the leg, and they don't bring up, basically if they retcon most of what they did, most people, not saying everyone, most people will be like, all right, Jay White, keep going. Here we go. And they'll be like, we're going after the trios titles. And then they'll win, and here we go. I don't think they'll do that. And I think they did a disservice to Jay by booking all of this around him and not with him. And I don't mean in the room, I mean with the story movements. It felt like it was Jay in the orbits, but the storyline was really MJF, the devil. Jay stole the belt. Now he's got to get it back.
So the one thing that we haven't talked about in this ridiculous overbooked madness really is that the devils didn't get revealed in the process.
Can I jump in?
Yes, of course.
We try not to cut each other off. We get better about that.
You're the host. It's your show.
It's not my show. Believe me. It was Tim's show. No, it was mine. Anyway.
You do all the work, so you steer the ship.
I didn't expect the devil character to emerge at the show. I thought it would be good for a beat, but once Adam Cole showed up, I was like, okay, we don't need a devil appearance because the devil is here. You don't know it, but you know it. The idea was just that we're not putting your brain onto the devil right now, that we're bringing back the Bro Chacho story. Not making you think about what Adam Cole's doing, but now you got to think, oh, why was Adam Cole there? Was he the devil? Like, it's basically, you got to kind of think it through a little bit, which I don't love, but at least it wasn't the devil reveal. And I did never, ever, ever, ever did I want a devil reveal last night at the show.
I didn't until they set it up. Like MJF being in the ambulance saying, whatever you do, don't let them walk away with my belt. And Adam Cole having to then come up with a way to not let that happen. Instead of him trying to hobble his ass into the match, mobilizing an ambulance of devils to go level the playing field at least and try to attack Jay White and the guns would have made so much more sense. I wouldn't have liked it really, but it would have way, 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 way more protected Jay White than what they did. I before that, I did not think the devil was going to be revealed at this. I feel like that's a December-ish thing. And I feel like the bummer of all this is I feel like that has been built very well. I think there are so many possibilities of who it can be. I've gone on record on Twitter of saying if Kyle O'Reilly is anywhere near it, I will cry, because if that man is able to get back in a ring, that is nothing short of a miracle. And I love Kyle O'Reilly, and I feel like he's so underrated. But there's a lot of possibilities with it, and I feel like there's so much intrigue there, and I think a lot of it got its legs cut out from under it yesterday, no pun intended. But the bummer of it was I really wanted to enjoy the match, and I was so distracted by how poorly the story turned. And what a bummer that was, because the in-ring was great. The in-ring was, of course it was. It was Jay White and MJF. MJF always steps up for the matches of this reign. Like, no doubt about that. Just very frustrating that it's unforced errors, as Alex always says. Like, they went so far out of their way to create this, when if you had just given me Jay White versus MJF, I would have been salivating. Because it feels very much like the possibility of a healthy Jay White beating MJF would have been realistic. So the fact that you went to a already wrestled, one-legged, escaped in an ambulance MJF, not being able to beat Jay White, and at one point Jay White has control of the diamond ring, Like, and the numbers game. There's like 5 things in play here where you could have sold me on a healthy Jay White beating MJF. Close enough. So that's where it went wrong for me. It was just way too much. As is usually the case with wrestling that I like. I usually like wrestling that does less, that doesn't try as hard, and goes simpler on creative. But Jay White's great, and hopefully they'll make it work. Him maybe entering this tournament would be a great way to build someone up. After you do this to them, having them in a round robin tournament and having a dominant showing, but you don't have to be undefeated in it, a good call, a good way to build someone back up in a second. And you can see Daphne is now trying to sneak her way into frame. You can see her little ears.
Yes.
Hi, Daphne.
Hello.
Look
my feeling with Jay is that he can come in, cut that fiery promo, and then say, I'm going to do something that none of you do, and that's join the E1 because I have the experience none of you do in this tournament. And Eddie will be like, well, I do. And he'll be like, no, bullshit. But the point here is that he can come in and just be like, I've done this tournament. I know this style. I'm going to run the table. I'm going to go far. But I see every point you're making. Now, the match itself was quite WWE-like. It was quite sports entertainment-y, and not a lot of people were not a big fan of that. I get that. And again, Max certainly is trying to tell a different story with whatever he's doing. Doesn't always hit, but they tried it. It just didn't work, in my opinion. They've got a lot of balls in the air, which can be a very good thing to have when they're being played right. But right now, they just don't have those. They didn't have the plates all spinning at the same time last night. There could have been better ways to do this and tell this story without making it feel like an overbooked mess. From giving Adam Cole the match, he can fight. Well, why can he fight? He's still injured, very openly still injured. Why is that okay? But like, that's not a misdirection. That's just lazy. Why are you then not? Again, many people.
A contract clause, all of it. And I think it made it feel not like a big fight anymore.
Yeah, like the biggest.
All that, yeah.
And even on top of that, in the match itself, he got the towel, and that was the moment where I was like, why does he get to throw in the towel? I get there with like going back to Full Gear 2019, like, okay, fine, I'm glad you tried to explain it, but to me it was like, I don't think we needed to do that. The match itself could have just been a great match, and the story being babyface MJF with all these stupid Super Cena ideas beating Jay White, getting the title back that he deserved because it's his title and he is the champion. He gets back the title and Jay White loses the title he never owned. That would have been fine. But instead, we got what we got, and they were trying to tell a story. They were trying to do a through thread through the pay-per-view, which they've never tried before. I commend them for trying it.
Sure. But always good to try things that you haven't done. Yeah.
But I want you to try it again and do it better. I think that's kind of my takeaway.
I don't want them to try it again.
Ever.
Never, ever, ever, ever again. No, it was... I really liked MJF as a face. I was having a lot of fun with it. And now that they've gotten into Super Cena territory, I'm like, and it's time to get the belt off of him sooner than later, because it's now becoming bad to the rest of your roster. I think the other thing was, it felt like we knew what the booking was going to be as far as Jay White not winning, because even initially it felt like there was some intrigue. But then if everybody's coming after you and you're going this far with the Samoa Joe angle, obviously MJF's going to retain, right? So if that's the case, why are we going so far out of our way to make Jay White look weak in the process when we also have an inevitable outcome? Is just not a recipe for success, in my opinion. But you live and you learn. Pro wrestling's dead.
Jay White
AEW's dead.
Exactly. It's done.
Jay White has no more career ever again.
Never.
He should have gone to WWE.
Totally. Yeah.
Even though he tried.
He did. Yeah.
But he should maybe he can go to NWA. Start from the bottom, work his way back up.
You think he would do cocaine?
Like kayfabe a minute and a half on screen cocaine? Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not where
he's already ruined his career once. Let's just do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's do it. Anyway, so that was an entire minute and a half of sarcasm for those of you who weren't actually thinking. Jay White's going to be fine. Jay White, they're going to have to make Jay White go out and eat some crow on Wednesday, but then build him back up. It's not impossible.
They need to do the work though, because they really screwed that up. Because now, who comes out against Jay White and the Guns and isn't like, you couldn't beat a hobbling MJF?
So actually, I wouldn't mind someone coming out there and saying that, and then having Jay White be like, you know what? The problem is that Jay White's a heel. But if Jay White could just be like, you know what? I'm going to beat your ass tonight to prove that I can beat anyone, and then he beats that person very decisively. That's not like Griff Garrison, someone who has at least something so that he can show, someone who actually has something behind him so that he can prove that, he's got to take his aggression out on someone is what I'm getting at. That's what it is. Jay should be pissed off. I would watch the NWA.
I would watch it if they could land a TV deal, but they instead do cocaine instead of landing TV deals.
I watch NWA pay-per-views. Don't let me. You can't watch don't gatekeep me, okay? Don't gatekeep my wrestling. I watch too much wrestling. If I was on a plane with Vince McMahon and I started watching SNL and he told me no, go watch the WWE Network, I would watch the WWE Network.
Wow, you fucking homer.
Yeah, that's right. I just deep cutted so far that you have to search that story from Freddie Prinze Jr. to get the reference from Freddie Prinze Jr. Okay?
Yes. I absolutely hate on that brand and do not watch it. You are correct. I don't care once you've... I love Max. I love... what they did with Camille. I love a lot of the younger talent and I keep up with what I can. But no, I will not be tuning in to watch their shows. But I will continue to hate on it because I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah. Be a hypocrite. Hypocrites leave a thumbs up, by the way. Go ahead, leave a thumbs
up. Hypocrites leave a thumbs up. I'm gonna, after we're done talking about this. You want to talk about how Speedball, Mike Bailey, and Zack Sabre Jr. ruled real quick?
Yeah.
And on a happy note.
My God, that was great.
R.I.P. Mike Bailey's pinky. God bless.
He doesn't need it. It's fine. Have you seen the rest of him? He's fine.
What an underrated year for Mike Bailey. I don't want to say underrated, but I think people are talking about the Ospreays and the ZSJs and Gunthers of the world having these monster years. And Mike Bailey has taken a lot of L's, but he's had some of the most outstanding matches of the year. Ospreay, ZSJ, Leo Rush, there's been so many great matches that he's gotten to have, and I feel like he's having one of those breakout years on maybe not as high of a level, but I'm glad to see people are talking about him because he's been around for a while, and this was another match, and being right off of the match with Ospreay too, I just feel like he's in a really, really good spot right now, and this match was, of course, everything that I wanted it to be. I loved from the beginning, from ZSJ jumping him before the bell and them mocking each other, to just the natural beauty of Speedball's style and ZSJ's style, endemically controlling the pace of a match, made this so great to watch because Speedball is so often a million miles an hour and ZSJ is obviously submissions and very technical. So they had to do no extra work around controlling the pace of the match because naturally those two guys are going to live in those worlds anyway. Oh my God, what a refreshing thing to have in a match, because I feel like technical wrestlers have to go out of their way to find ways to speed up and slow things down. But with Karate Master, why are his legs so angry, as Jay said after? This was so good. To me, the beauty of the whole Zack Sabre Jr. title reign has been finishes of matches. They're perfect punctuation marks on every story that they've told. Him breaking his pinky with 5 seconds left leaves the door open for a rematch if you want to. Speaks to ZSJ's whole thing of, even though there's a time limit, I'm not the type of champion that wants to abide by it, and I'll break your fingers if I have to in the process. Excellent stuff. Match of the week for me. I can't believe that was only a week ago, but that whole New Japan Strong brand has been really, really strong. Gabe Kidd and Lawler, Shingo and Trent was also awesome. The women's match was awesome. Stephanie Vicure was great.
So good.
So much fun. If you're not watching New Japan Strong, you're missing out. I'm telling you, people, it's good shit. But that match was outstanding. I loved it. Good for Speedball.
By the way, Speedball and Janela, another good match. Go see that. They went almost 40 minutes. They went weird, and it was so good. Speedball is so versatile in so many ways. He just wants to get out there and wrestle, and he's so wholesome and pure, and I hate it so much. I love it. I love it.
I also appreciated in the setup to this match. He was like, I don't even think Zack Sabre Jr. owns a TV, but me, I'm watching 80 hours of Guy Fieri. I should be a TV champion because I actually watch TV is a phenomenal angle to take with your match setup.
I'm really enjoying this one guy absolutely losing it in the chat about our NWA commentary. There was no CW deal. Fake news. No, believe me. If you think Billy's telling the truth, I got a bridge in New York to sell you.
Yeah, good Lord. Also, like, EC3 is not going to sell me on a promotion. I'm sorry.
He can sell you on 88% of it, though. Anyway, do we have anything else to go through other than Jay White's been buried and the wrestling is done? There's no more wrestling ever.
No, wrestling is dead, but we had a good run. We had a good run, pro wrestling fans.
So what are we going to talk about next week?
Probably, I mean, we'll check in on how your kid's doing for sure.
Sleeping.
And maybe I'll come visit, even though there won't be a pay-per-view anymore in December. So we'll just talk about the logistics of our plans on air for me coming to visit, even though there's not going to be a pay-per-view anymore because wrestling has died. RIP wrestling. You had a good run.
You want to come to a Hanukkah party? Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love. Actually, yeah, I would love that.
All right.
So we'll plan that on air.
Great. Wonderful. Oh God, do the plugs. Let's get out of here.
Sure. Hey, 3 Sundays in a row now here on Fightful Overbooked. You've been able to catch me and Joel doing Kate and Joel Call It in the Ring. Mondays, I'm on Fightful Select, getting sour with Alex Pulowski on the Sour Grabs post show. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays on the main channel with your NXT, ROH, and SmackDown post shows. And Wednesdays at the Mark Order podcast, talking all things All Elite. And then I have my own YouTube channel that you can check out at Miss Kate Fabe. This Week in Wrestling happens pretty much every week. Maybe I'll get one in at the buzzer here. Maybe I'll hop on at 11, do one to recap this past week. Maybe it'll be Last Week in Wrestling and I'll do it tomorrow. I don't know. We're going to find out. But more fun content on the way there. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The more subscriptions I get, the closer I get to being able to like truly monetize over there. So please head over there and subscribe. I love you so much.
Someone in the chat had mentioned talk about Cody's face paint. We're going to talk about WarGames next week, assuming we make it to next week. When wrestling,
I didn't see Cody on the poster because I guess he was in camouflage. I've heard
he was just like
he
his
stole
dad.
John Cena's gimmick.
He did. You can't see him.
You can't see Cody.
You can't see MJF. You can't see anybody anymore. That's maybe it's these cataracts.
But those steel blue eyes of Cody Rhodes, those piercing blue eyes.
Anyway, we will talk about WarGames next week. I'm looking forward to talking about Randy Orton on Wednesday. Spoiler alert. Grand Rapids, Michigan. That's the site where he lost those tag titles to the Usos. So where's Raw this Monday? Kate, pop quiz.
Tokyo.
Yeah. You got it. January 4th, Monday Night Raw. Jeremy Lambert and I are in the weeds every Monday, Wednesday, Friday here on the channel, 10 a.m. until noon. Ring of Honor, Impact Post Show Thursdays on the main, and I just pop in, I pop out wherever I need to. If Jimmy needs to do a Q&A, I show up. If Sean Ross Sapp decides to take a week off, he doesn't call me anymore. He just doesn't call me anymore.
No,
he never calls. I should text him. Anyway, I'm at Joel Pearl, JOELPERL. Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary. We will see you in the next one.